and then this whole ninth planet stuff came out, and I figured, well, that's perfect. I'm kind of glad that we did postpone it, because now we can have him come on and talk, and he's got a lot of stuff to talk about the whole thing. I mean, he gets right into it. That's what I liked about having him on, because he got into a lot of different stuff, the whole underground cities and stuff, which I thought was very interesting. I mean, it's stuff that we know about, obviously, but it's good to get his take. And of course, Bob Fletcher is a retired investigative journalist who conducted a probe into the CIA's involvement in the U.S. drug trade. His report was presented to several congressmen, including Sonny Bono, and since then turned his attention to the return of Planet X. So it's a pretty short, vague just bio.
Well, I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say about this news recently.
Yeah. I'm actually, I refrained from actually discussing it with him in the emails, because like I talk to a lot of people, like I talk to Dennis McKenna once in a while, about the and stuff like that, conversations through email and stuff like that, and I refrained from doing it with Bob, because I was like, well, no, I'll wait till he gets on the show. I don't want to.
So what's the deal? I mean, with this Planet X, I mean, the deal. A lot of people I can't say a lot of people. Not too many people talk about this, but but the people who do talk about Planet X suspect that this could be some sort of conditioning. I think it could just be the government's way of putting a story out so they can just play stupid when it finally does pass us. So they can claim that they warned us.
Yeah.
Like.
Hey, we warned you. Yeah.
Right.
We told
you. And it's not going to work. People are going to be pissed the fuck off when it passes. That's when the governments of the world are going to collapse, I believe. I mean, that's what Zeta Talk claims as well. They claim that the government's going to try to pass martial law a few times, and they're going to fail, and the people are going to rise up against the government when this thing finally does pass, because they're going to realize, holy shit, the government was lying. And
yeah.
So people are stupid, but they're not going to be that stupid,
No, well, I mean,
not that forgiving.
We hope not, anyway.
Yeah. Well, if the Nancy leader is correct, and if she's actually channeling these Zeta Reticuli alien gray beings, then there's a good chance people won't forgive the government, which needs to happen. We need to fucking overthrow them.
Don't forgive them for anything anyway.
No. I mean, we're pretty naive and stupid, though. I mean, and you know what's crazy is you would think that most Nibiru people that believe in Planet X would also believe that the Earth is flat. It's not so bad, actually. It's not that large. It's kind of statistically equal to how many people are truthers. So maybe like 10% of the people believe the Earth's flat. That's not too bad.
10%. That's still big. That's 10% too much.
Hey, well, yeah, of course it is, dude. It's horrible. But that's like. It seems to be the case with truthers. 10% of truthers believe. And if you're listening and you do believe the Earth is flat, I don't mean to offend. I'm not going to bash you. That's okay. You're free to believe that. I was interested first time I saw that. Like when I first ran into it, like it claimed that there's a dome over the Earth. The Earth is like encapsulated in this big glass dome.
I was more interested in the hollow Earth because I thought it was more reasonable, and it is.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I think that's
it's similar, but.
Yeah.
The thing that really got me, I know I don't want to give this too much attention, but was the whole faking the going into space and all that stuff. Like that's when people start like, okay, like even as crazy as it sounds, like I know anything's possible, but the whole we haven't gone into space and all this stuff, like that's crap. I mean, we haven't gone into space, of course.
I knew it. Right.
Well, I mean, I guess I've been in space before, on some LSD or something. I definitely. It was. I definitely saw a nice big round Earth when I was floating above the planet. So.
Yeah, you and me both. Yeah, the Earth is definitely round. There's no doubt about it. I mean, people are going to say, "Well, what proof?" There's a lot of proof, but we're not going to talk about that this episode because we're talking about Nibiru. And Nibiru, man, what's the deal? When's it going to happen? That's what we're going to ask. We're going to ask Bob. There's a lot of photos and video footage that appear to show Nibiru. Is it real, or are these photos just sundogs? A lot of them are sold.
Right. And with this ninth planet, now they haven't actually seen that this is basically, they're basing this off just physics, right? They haven't seen it. They're just like, I guess he could probably explain it a little bit. I didn't actually get into it. I didn't actually even, I read that article and I shared it. I think I shared it on the website too, but I didn't get like too deep into it because like whatever. I'm just gonna wait. I'll wait till we get Bob on, and I'll let Bob.
You know what's interesting about it is they found this research a while back, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's trending. I remember reading it a few months ago. The claim was that they can't see it, they haven't discovered it yet. All they can
behind the sun.
It's behind the well, that's what the Nibiru people are saying, that it's next to the sun. But NASA is claiming that it's behind Pluto, and that we haven't seen it yet, but they're able to detect the magnetic force of it. And they're claiming that the magnetic force is so strong that this planet has to be 10 times larger than Earth. And that seems to be a lot of people claim that Nibiru is four times larger, but then Nemesis is the sun that travels with Nibiru. Yep. And I'm reading recently in these Nibiru groups that I often chat inside, and I'm reading that people are claiming that there are multiple suns traveling with us, and that there are multiple planets and moons. There's like almost a dozen objects, it seems, about a dozen objects. That's crazy. And like
I mean not not crazy as in flat Earth crazy. That's just like,
right. No, it's crazy as in that'd be effing crazy if that thing by, because it would take up the whole sky, dude. It would look like a science fiction movie, you know.
Absolutely.
And the really cool thing when it does happen, and if it does happen in our lifetime, which I hope it doesn't happen in our lifetime, I don't want it to happen. You know, people it's happening. I do not want it to happen. That would be cataclysmic. Yeah. I mean, it's just this society sucks and everything, but I don't want us to like be destroyed. I don't want that would be. But dude, there's going to be some crazy plasma going on. Huge electrical plasma going from our planet to this Nibiru, because magnetic charges.
It doesn't. We don't have to touch it. It just has to get.
Oh no. Yeah.
I mean, not even really close, but I mean, you figure. I mean, like that gets in. Yeah, man. That's.
That's a great documentary recently. Something called I forget what it's called. It's made by the people who made the documentary Thunderbolts of the Gods, and but inside of it shows that the cave drawings that you see of in all sorts of different cultures across the planet, like that for thousands of years old. These cave drawings. A lot of these weird, strange-looking beings that you see in these cave drawings.
Yep.
They're not. They weren't actually people that these people were drawing on their cave walls. They weren't aliens either. They were actually they were the electrical emissions. What I just mentioned it. The coming from Nibiru to our planet, kind of like it's like a string of energy, plasma.
Yeah.
Going back and forth to the planet. And this thing is going to look crazy. And they were actually able to duplicate this plasma discharge in laboratories, and they record it on video. And the actual plasma that's going inside these laboratories that they film looks exactly like all the drawings on the wall. For instance, you know that the ancient drawing where you have the hand and the eyeball in the center of the hand?
Yep.
That's actually a plasma discharge that come from this large object. Yeah.
And that's all right.
And actually the hand itself is a mixture of plasma, and it's supposedly the planet Nibiru that in front of all these other planets.
Okay.
And this one documentary tries to claim that it's not Nibiru, that it's actually, what is it, Saturn, I believe? No, Jupiter. I'm sorry, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. So this documentary claims that Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, it was either Saturn or Jupiter, I think it was Jupiter, actually left their orbits at one time and were much closer and caused all sorts of destruction on the planet, which, as far as I'm concerned, is physically impossible. Something would have had to cause these planets to leave their orbit, and that, to me, is physically impossible.
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
The idea of there being an extra planet that has an elliptical orbit that travels around, and some people claim that it's not an elliptical orbit. It actually crosses over, so it's kind of like a big figure 8, and it goes both sides, way outside the solar system. You know what I mean? Like it's like a figure 8, and we're in the center of that figure 8. Yeah.
Yep.
Which means that it's not going to pass us twice. It's just going to pass us by once. So it's not going to have to enter the solar system, pass us, and then pass us again as it's leaving. It's actually just going to sneak up on us from the opposite side of the sun, and that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And this Nemesis, the brown dwarf that travels with Nibiru, is supposedly keeps to the planet warm. And this planet, and I know we had a guest on before that was claiming it was like Lemurians and not Anunnaki, but I've never heard of that. I don't know what that guy was talking about.
Who was that?
I don't know. It was a few guests ago. It was some guy.
Oh, Dennis Watts.
Okay, yeah.
right? That's I don't. Yeah, I kind of forgot that interview.
It was like Lemurians, the Anunnaki. The
Yeah,
Anunnaki
that was when we got
now.
into all that. Yeah, all that.
Anunnaki the deal that they can't hurt people.
Yeah, so that was it kind of lost me on that when we got talking about that.
Saying some way.
I say that to James. James say that to James. Like, what? No, that's Dennis. No, don't say that. It's like, no, I didn't say anything bad about Dennis. I just that was the part that he talked about that I was just like, what?
I didn't like the guy very much. I thought he was full of it.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't remember much of that interview, to be honest. So, so I can't really say anything. That's basically what I remember from that interview. That wasn't a good night for me.
I thought he was a talk. I thought it was nonsense.
He was just on. I don't know if Clyde Lewis had him on Ground Zero. Well, that's what happened. James sent his contact or whatever to Clyde. And I guess Clyde had him on not too long ago. I don't know if it was Coast to Coast. I don't. Did you tag me in something about Coast to Coast the other day? Was that you?
I don't think so. Maybe I did something.
No, something about. Somebody did. Someone tagged me. I don't know if they were just because they know I listen to it at night or. Look, I listen. Coast to Coast is nothing like it used to be, and I listen to it at night. Like I tell everyone, I listen to it to go to sleep. But it gives me like, because I hear things while I'm sleeping and dreaming, it's getting in my dreams. So when they talk about like the crazy stuff, it's like I start dreaming what they're talking about on this show. I love it. And that happened to me last night. I gotta share this before Bob comes on. It's kind of funny. I don't know if this had anything to do with what they had going on or whatever on the show. It might have just been completely irrelevant. I might have just had a weird ass dream, but. I watched that. There's a show on Fox. It's comedy. It's like that Cooper Barrett show. It's on Sunday nights, like with Family Guy and everything. And it's got this girl on it. And I had her name. I posted. I don't know. I posted about her earlier because I had that dream. And anyway, she was in my dream, and I was hanging out with her. And like I was at a bar, and like there were people there, and they were like famous people, but. I don't know who they were. Like now, they like in my dream they were famous, but I don't think they really were. You know what I mean? And then I just skipped to another dream, and like I was somewhere in this town, and I stole this car, and I just remember driving around. It was like a really nice. It was like a sports car. Like I was like It looked in my dream. It looked like something like a Mustang or something, stick shift, and I was like driving around, and then all of a sudden Joe Rogan's in my car. Sitting in the passenger seat, too. So I got Joe Rogan like riding passenger, dude. I'm just driving around. And, like, all these different people just keep showing up in my dream. And then, like, I murdered someone in my dream. I went to this camp. And so I went to this camp, and I apparently murdered people in my dream. Well, that's when I think they were talking about somebody killing someone on the radio. So it went into my head. And then apparently I was killing people in my dream last night. But anyway, I had to share that because I have some weird dreams, man.
Yeah, me too, but not that often that I kill anybody. I don't think I really ever kill anybody in my dream.
I think that might have been the first time I killed someone in my dream.
Actually, no. There was this one kid that tried to kill me in my dream, and I killed him. He like tried pushing me over a balcony, and I moved, and he fell off.
You ever had those dreams where you're trying to punch somebody and you're really slow? It's like you're like it's slow motion. It's like I don't know. I've had that. Like in a dream, you're trying to fight someone, but you can't do it. Like you're not moving and you're moving in slow motion. I don't know. I've had that happen so many times. I guess I have violent dreams, don't I?
Yeah.
Like killing people, beating people up.
UFC crap.
I don't know. Maybe. There was a while there that I would wake up in the morning and that's what I would think about, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, dude. Like it was really weird. Like I would just wake up and that was the first thing that came to my mind. Like it's just weird. I don't know, man. I have these really weird dreams and the stuff goes in my head, so it sticks in my head. I don't know what to think of myself sometimes.
You gotta cleanse your aura, man.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh man.
So, yeah, man, Nibiru, I'm looking forward to this. I mean, the Anunnaki, are they going to come by? A lot of people were claiming it was going to happen in March. I suspect it could happen in like 7 or 8 years. Aren't they claiming that whole RFID chip's going to come out in 2017? And if that's
wow, we're already in 26. Jeez, man.
Yeah, 2017.
Wow.
And, exactly. Oh, I know. And it's gone by fast, right? And if that's the case, isn't inside the Bible, like, because the whole prophecy thing, and this is like self-fulfilling prophecy. So the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, the control freaks, they influenced the Bible, they influenced all the prophecies, and they basically wrote the prophecies in the Bible themselves just so when the time comes they could recreate it. They claim that Jesus will come and F up the world and bring destruction, and he will come in the sky. I believe Jesus is just Nibiru, and they just don't want to say Nibiru because they don't want people to be prepared. So they're gonna.
I mean, that's
my theory is the mention of Jesus coming in the sky and all that. That's just Nibiru, and so that's supposed to happen after the 7 years of tribulation. So if this whole RFID thing is starting next year, this could be the first year of the 7-year tribulation. That means Nibiru could come in about 8 years. But then I heard someone else claim that it will either come now or in 40 years, and I never really understood that, and I didn't really think to ask him what the hell he was talking about at the time. But I'm going to ask him next time.
It seems like especially where it is right now, there's no way that it would get here that quick. I mean,
yeah, maybe in 7 or 8 years, but not in.
I would say like at least after 5 years from now.
yeah. If it's on the outside of Pluto, yeah, it's not going to be here anytime soon. But if it's outside of Pluto, there's no way it's going to be.
Oh, no, that's yeah, if it's outside of Pluto, obviously that's going to take a long time.
it is going to be here next
month. If that's Planet X, that's going to mess up a lot of theories.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, I mean,
probably even going to mess up Bob's theory.
So what's going to happen? I mean, this is crazy. I want to know. And I mean, and people don't realize the destruction. It doesn't have to hit us. It just has to come close, and it would completely take over our gravitational pull. It would slow down the planet to a complete stop. You'd have between 3 and 7 days of darkness, depending on what side of the planet you're on, and 3 to 7 days of sunlight if you're on the other side. So I mean, and then the oceans are just going to roll in all the coastlines. You're going to have like 200-foot wall of water. It's claimed, I think it was on Zeta Talk, they claimed that the oceans it's going to be like a high tide, like an ocean's tide. It's not going to be a tsunami, but it's going to be like a big wall of water that slowly comes in as the planet's slowing down to a stop. And it's going to be like 200-foot wall of water, and people are going to be trying to go inland to escape this wall of water. And entire coastlines within 100 miles inland, you have to be in, at least a few hundred feet above sea level. And then after this thing passes, we're going to have a new North and South Pole. So all the ice in the Antarctica is going to melt. I think the new South Pole is going to be in India. So if you're in India, you're dead. You got to get the hell out of India when this happens. You're going to freeze to death, and all that water is going to melt. And then for a few years, the sea level is going to be 700 feet above sea level where we're at now. So you're going to have to be at least 700 feet above sea level. And as this Nibiru passes by us, once it actually passes us, you're going to have a crazy worldwide earthquake on the, what do they say?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, that's definitely, absolutely.
9.0 on the Richter scale, no matter where you're at on the planet. And some places as high as 18.0, which means if you're at a place
probably like California,
right? Well,
like the San Andreas or something like that.
I don't even think. I don't think you can really know because it's not just going to be on the regular fault line.
No,
they probably will. Some places like
I would imagine, but
if you're at a spot on the planet where there's like an 18.0 on the Richter scale, you don't have a chance in hell of living. You're just going to be thrown up in the air a couple hundred feet. You're going to be like shot up into the air. That's how crazy that is, Yeah,
that is.
You don't have a shot in hell there.
It sounds fun.
Yeah. And there's this huge red iron dust cloud that's traveling with Nibiru, and it's going to cover the whole planet in this fine red dust. It's iron. It's going to be toxic, and supposedly, at least Zeta Talk claims that's where we get our oil from. This dust cloud from Nibiru, and they claim that all the oceans and lakes and rivers will be red like blood. That's in the Bible.
That is. Wait, whoever called in, you're on mute, so I got to dial up the guest. It'll probably dial live on air.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not. It usually does. Maybe they fix that so it doesn't give us the dial tone when we call. I'm not sure, but yes, I believe we are live with Bob Fletcher right now. You with us, Bob?
No.
All right. Well, anyway, I got him dialed. picked up. I don't know if something's going on his end, and let me try this.
All right.
Huh.
What is the deal?
I don't know. I've never had this issue. It dialed out, so he's connected right now. He can probably hear us talking, but we can't hear him.
Mr. Bob Fletcher, I believe your microphone might... Is he using Skype? Yeah, you would have to use
No, it's a home phone, actually, so it really shouldn't be that. I know.
Yeah, it shouldn't be any problems whatsoever, sure.
Not any problems. All right, let's get this other connection
I want
going.
to hear Mr. Fletcher.
That's interesting.
I've got to get his take on this recent news.
I'm trying here. That's what kind of sucks about having to run the show and host the show and try to do all this at once, dude.
I think that's him. Oh, that's
okay,
Michael.
No, we got Michael.
What is disappointment?
Michael's
my friend too.
Michael's the restricted call that I answered.
I would rather have you been Bob Fletcher, though.
Yeah. Well, we still have Bob connected. He just can't. We just can't hear him.
Are you able to message him on Facebook or something?
I sent him an email and let him know that I was connecting to him.
You need to do better than email.
That's the only contact I have.
You want to hang up and try calling him again?
Yeah, I think I'll try that. It's weird.
Okay. How you doing, Michael? How was work?
Another day, man.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
All right. Yeah, I know I got the number right because I copied and pasted it. So he's probably he's trying to talk to us and.
Oh, I hope not.
All right. So landline. Yeah, I got it. Same. Yeah, I got the number right. Sorry, folks. We'll get this figured out. This actually has not ever happened, especially with a landline. I can understand with Skype, but a landline, man, that should just try this. And
so,
that's
Michael, what are your thoughts on Planet X? Oh, here we go.
See now it's now.
Yeah, that's
I didn't
fine.
do that before. That's weird.
Hello.
Hello, Bob.
Contact with with Earth. Here, what are you doing? Okay, very good. We've gotten together. There's got to be a song in there someplace. Okay, very good. Well, we were going crazy here, and I don't know if it was your end or my end, but that's okay.
I honestly think it was neither of our end. I think it was the Blog Talk Radio. It's all their fault.
God. The blog God.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we doing? Are we going to go on the air this week, or what's happening? Are we set?
We're live right now.
Okay, good. For the folks that are listening, we have no idea what's going on this side. We had the electronic wizards are fooling with us or something. So now we're contacting. Let's go from there. We'll make like nothing ever happened and start over again.
Sounds good to me.
So, hey, good evening. I'm just glad to be here.
Yes,
excellent.
We're happy that you came on the show. And, I was telling Jeff earlier that I was kind of glad that we did postpone that last time because of this new not glad, you know what I mean, but just because it kind of turned out, I didn't mean it like that, but because it's good because of this new stuff that they're finally telling us that there's some other planet or whatever. So, yeah, so I guess we.
However, we got to be careful with that. But how would you like to start this evening now that we made our telephone connection?
Do you think the new show X-Files will mention Nibiru at all? I hope so.
I don't know.
I
don't know.
Come on,
it depends.
How
I guess.
awesome would that be?
Well, eventually somebody's got to mention it. That's the problem. Yeah. Now, listen. Let me. I don't know how many of your listeners do or do not know who I am. I don't know whether I should give this kind of a little bit of an update, particularly for those who are saying, "Who is Bob Fletcher?" Anyhow.
Yes, please, yes.
Okay, and then we can kind of go on from there. And of course, for the people that are wondering what we're talking about, I had, of course, done actually a year ago released a DVD expose on the discovery of Planet X. But let me give those folks who don't know who I am kind of give them a brief update because otherwise it would take a month on the air to do a real good on my background.
Sure.
So I have to pass over. Pretend you've already had 29 days of it on the air. But to put it in a shortened version, many years ago, back basically in about 1985, I had been in several businesses. I had been an executive in the music business with MCA Records, which is the biggest record company in the world, on up again and off again, but MCA being a gigantic record company. And I was a promotion director with the MCA during let's say in the 70s, and been in and out of several businesses. In the early 80s, I had briefly for about a year or so an international consulting company with one of my partners in that business. Literally was the consulate general or the attaché in Washington, D.C. to from the country of Liberia. And so we were doing international consulting and et cetera, and he was my partner, where you could actually call the embassy back at that time and contact me or leave a message directly through the embassy. So it was pretty good for business. There's nothing better than having on your business card the alternate phone number to my office was the embassy in Washington, D.C., which most countries would not do that, but in this case, he had been there for like 15 years, so he didn't care. There was nobody. The president, the seated president in Liberia was his boss, so he had fairly high up. But the reason I mention that is my next step was in my life was a toy company. I became a manufacturer of toys. I had a particular toy that I had invented that was rather unique, and I started making a few of them kind of as a hobby, and they became such a big deal that when the consulting company closed, we closed doors on that because there was an overthrow of that country of Liberia in approximately 1980, and when that happened, most of the people we had signed some $1 million contracts with were killed all in 1 week. So that's the way they do the change of presidency over there. So anyhow, I can look back at kind of on a humorous point at this point in time, but it's kind of terminated most of our contracts. So I went into the toy business, manufacturing toys, and which is as far away from political mainstream or political corruption as you could possibly be by manufacturing toys. And I had a couple of retail operations in amusement parks and things of that sort. And of course, had not up to that point been very politically oriented, because the average guy, which I put myself in that, well, maybe I'm never average, but pretty much in that category, I just was not, I didn't care what went on in Washington, because I always kind of assumed in reality it didn't have a real good connection to my personal life, like most of us. And so I was looking to expand the toy company. We were doing very well, and I wanted to go on television with the toy, because with that kind of a product, we would have sold, like 10 million of them in a couple of months on television. That's the kind of toy it was, a demonstration kind of a thing. So I ran across a company. A fellow had a company, actually had about 6 companies, and he had a lot of money. I met him in New York City in a marketing company, a marketing convention for miscellaneous products, a gigantic show, 35,000 participants in this particular marketing show, which is once a year in near Madison Square Garden. It's really a big thing. So I ran into this fella, and he jotted down on his business card, and he handed it to me, and he just said, "I'm interested in a large number of toys that you manufacture. Contact me when you get back to Atlanta." So I just took the card and put it aside, because when you're doing those shows, you get 1,000 people like that just come by and say, "Call me when get back, and I'll buy $1 million worth of junk from you." So the bottom line, to cut to the chase, as they say, this gentleman, using that term in the wrong definition, but this jerk was in fact a supplier of covert weapons for the United States Central Intelligence and National Security Agency. He and his business partners, who were the major generals that had run the entire Vietnam War, and that's who this guy was. He was a covert arms supplier, and I ended up merging with him, not knowing that, of course. That was not part of my deal. I didn't know anything about that crazy stuff, and I became plopped and dropped right into the middle of James Bond kind of a situation where this guy wanted me to use my toy company as a covert front to travel in and out of a variety of nations, different countries, where the Central Intelligence and the National Security Agencies were doing wars. And at that time, it was the Iran-Contra war situation down in Nicaragua, and they were moving into West Africa. See, and that's where that company that I had with the Liberian and contracts with Liberia, that's how that came into play, because somehow apparently he had found out about that. And his offices were right next door to my offices in Atlanta. So how that came about exactly, I never found out. But that was the bottom line, was that he came and finally said, when I asked him, because I was meeting major generals, these big, very heavy-duty four-star generals coming in and out of my toy company, which is a little unique, and these people were speaking in foreign languages, and they were selling, supplying the Hellfire missiles out of my toy factory in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, I don't mean that we never physically had missiles on the floor in the toy company, but nonetheless, the operations, the meetings, and the sales, and all of that, the agreements and contracts were all going through the company right there.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of mind-boggling. And again, it's a wonderful story, the whole story of that, and how I ended up getting into chasing corrupted people in government. That was the root of the entire thing. Because what happened was, of course, I had already contracted with him. I merged my company, moved it in under his roof, and then a few months later was when I found out the bottom line of what was going on. And of course, he wanted me, he said, get your passport in order, because in a week or two, I want you to get out of here. You've got to go to, I think it was Angola, on another, West African nation, and to put together some contractual agreements and stuff like that. So, and of course, I said, he said, you'll make more money than the president. He said, and you never have to pay taxes again, or any of that stuff. We just don't bother with it, and so I just said, no, I'm not going to do that. I said, I'm going to get killed if I do that. What? This is crazy. What are you talking about? I'm not a Central Intelligence agent. I've never even been anything in that category or close to it. I wouldn't know what I was doing. I guess I could do it. It's just functioning as an informational courier between the United States government, these guys, and by the way, these people were. When I confronted him and I said, what is it that's going on here? I said, what's with the military guys and the generals and the telephone calls, foreign languages, and faxes coming in? At that time, that we didn't have email. It was just a fax machine. We had coded messages coming in about the delivery of potatoes and things of that sort, which were actually weapons and not potatoes, but I didn't know anything about that kind of stuff.
Right.
So I backed off, and then when I started pursuing, I had a good friend, had been a lawyer for many years, had been a family friend, and I got with her right away, and I said, hey, you know that great deal that I got into a couple months ago? I said, it's not so great, and I said, I need to get some money back. They took my whole company. I mean, I had this, $1 million company that was now gone. So I was making 40, 50,000, whatever it was, coming through our just the toy stores in the Six Flags amusement park. So the bottom line was, when we started moving forward with the potential of doing a simple legal action, a fraudulent contract, and they had plenty of money. They should have just paid me my money back and been done with it. But instead, they told me to take a hike, and they said, basically, this fella, and his name was Gary Best, he put his hand into his pocket wearing his dress suit, suit jacket on, put his hand into his pocket, pulled it back out in the shape of with his fingers in the shape of a gun, aimed it towards my forehead and said if I talked to anybody and went any farther with this, and then he just made like he was pulling the trigger and said bang. So these guys were who they were. They had run Air America. If you ever saw the movie that was done, it was so popular, called Air America, about the drug smuggling out of Vietnam. These guys ran it. They were Air America. Okay, that's who they were.
Wow.
They were assassins. They had done all of the assassinations during the Vietnam War. The shipment involved coming out of with the drugs coming out of Vietnam. They were actually putting them in the carcasses of our dead soldiers, opening them up and smuggling the drug in their bodies.
Damn.
That's how low life these people were. And it was only within a month or two of my exiting that guy and telling him, hey, I'm not going to have anything to do with this, that they started doing the peripheral investigation that became the Iran-Contra inquiries at the Senate and the Congress. And this was 1987. I was involved in 85, 86, around that period of time. So when I saw that, I was very angry because I had lost my whole business. I lost all, everything, and was unable to go anyplace because when we started moving forward legally, I received notification that my toy factory was classified secret. And those people involved with myself, of course, are referring to their own people, these operatives, that those people were all classified as being secret. We couldn't go to court, and the judges, the courts would not hear it because it was all classified. So I was really angry. That was about, let's say a year or so after finding out I had just lost everything, and there was no recourse. When I saw they were investigating the Iran-Contra business, I contacted, as a matter of fact, it was Senator John Kerry, who's now, of course, the Secretary of State presently, contacted him because he was headed one of the major inquiries at that time. And I simply said, I'm going to give you a couple of names on the telephone. If, in fact, these people are who I think they are, you tell me, and we'll go from there. And if it doesn't mean anything to you, then we'll just forget about it. And I, of course, told him the people that were involved, and he said, you're right in the middle of it. Can you come to Washington? So I did, went on up to Washington with my lawyer friend, and that started it. 1987 started myself. I became an interviewed witness in the Iran-Contra inquiries. And when that happened, from that point forward, I had senators and congressmen all over me because they were everybody had an investigation they wanted to do. An awful lot of it was connections of drug operations directly into the White House and drug operations into national security and the CIA and all of that. So all of those guys, they have their own little agenda to pursue who they would like to. And so they were coming to me saying, Mr. Fletcher, do you know anything about this thing over here? Or did this fellow's name ever come up over here, involved with this over here? And next thing I realized, I was in the middle of chasing corrupted people in government, and now it's been 30 years. So now and ended up being it's just so many, and it was a wonderful experience. Mind-boggling. I mean, it's stressful, obviously, because what I discovered is that the corruption in our government, from the president down, including senators and congressmen and everyone else, for the most part, almost all of them are corrupted in one manner or another. And it's either a mild kind of a thing, a small level, or it's really pretty serious. And so in the last 30 years, I've been directly involved with probably 7 or 8 major investigations at the congressional and Senate level. And one of the biggest ones that never quite got off the ground was investigations that I was doing for and with Congressman Sonny Bono. And 15 days before that inquiry was going to actually open up on the floor of the United States Congress with Sonny, They murdered him. He was murdered on the ski slopes.
Yep.
They told everybody he ran into a tree.
Yep.
And everybody got a nice little giggle about how stupid he was to run into a tree. And he was dead, and that was the end of it. And we never got to get that off the ground. That would have impeached president and vice president at that time. It would have put people in prison. It was an amazingly heavy-duty inquiry connecting drug smuggling and murder and assassinations right up into the highest level of our security in the United States government, period.
Wow.
I had received I had supplied them with enough information myself personally, documentation, and even recorded statements of drug operatives and all of that. I had supplied all that to Sonny over a period of about 8-9 months. And in December of, try to get the right date, but I think it was, let's see, what would it have been? 90, okay, so it would have been 97, December of 97, most of the year of 97, I was doing that, supplying that information to Sonny. And in December, about the 10th of December, they called me. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. They called and they said, the committee it's all done. It's ready. We're going to have subpoena powers to carry out this investigation and on the floor of the Congress. Can you plan in January to get into Washington? And we actually going to have subpoena powers. Now, that's very unusual. They don't usually have subpoena powers with congressional and senatorial inquiries because an awful lot of people would be in prison if they did that. Because the reality is the Senate and the Congress in their inquiries are completely fraudulent. You could say 99% of it. Completely bogus, fraudulent junk. They do it to feed the public the concept or the idea that they're trying to do something and make things better and arrest people, and that never happens. It's all junk, including every major inquiry that I've ever seen in the last 30 years. They even had specific senators and congressmen and lawyers that they would bring in specifically to help or assist or oversight. Usually they would call on the chairman of the inquiry, and it was 2 or 3 particular guys that were completely fraudulent, and they were brought in just to shut them down and to dance around in circles instead of doing anything serious. So December, middle of the month of December, they called. I said yes, and I was elated. I was so glad we were going to knock some people's brains out with a serious investigation. Sonny was completely livid as to the amount of corruption that he had seen once he became a congressman. He couldn't believe it. Couldn't even sleep at night. It made him crazy. For people that don't remember, during the inquiry for the Waco church that burned back, it was burned down by the government. Yep. Sonny was on that committee and literally physically broke into tears when he heard the testimony about how we killed the children coming out of the church, set it on fire, and when they ran out, they were shooting them. You know, and he found out all of this material. He literally broke into tears on the floor of the Congress. He couldn't handle it. But that's where his head was. They couldn't buy him off, couldn't shut him up. So the alternate, therefore, was to kill him before that committee opened up. They went on their break on about the 15th of December. 10 days after the telephone call to myself in Los Angeles, Sonny was murdered, pistol whipped to death on the top of the
wow.
And I did do an investigation on that separately, which is in a DVD if anybody's interested, a complete coverage of my investigation on that, including his autopsy and all the rest of that. There's absolutely no question that he was murdered.
I believe
it took us 2 years almost to get the autopsy, and I was working for Sonny's mother, actually working for Sonny's mother and her attorney in Los Angeles, and she couldn't get it. You know, that's how corrupted this thing was. And so we did finally get it. It didn't, you know, and then of course I was unable to go any place. I wanted to have it reopened, but I got, you know, and there's a lot of reasons why. Primarily, is the people that had the best information. All of them benefited from his death in terms of financial or something. So, end of story. So now it brings us up to where we are a couple of years ago. Again, I have about 10 DVD reports that are available to the general public, and they can get them if they're interested at my website, BobFletcherInvestigations.com. They're all investigations that I was directly involved with. They're not reporter. I'm not a reporter doing things of other people's miscellaneous hand-me-down stories. They're all my own personal experiences, and they're all pretty good. It's includes material and documentation that other people never had. I had in my possession back in the 80s, I was able to secure Oliver North's all of the notebooks and all of the transcriptions, not only out of his computer, but out of his front vest pocket. I had his own notebooks, actually, where this Oliver North, by the way, for the younger folks, he was the primary character in the middle of the Iran-Contra arms deal and the drug operations in and out, swapping drugs for weapons with the CIA and with those characters that were in my toy factory. They literally used to fly planes, U.S. military planes, loaded with illegal arms and deliver them to the Contras, the revolutionaries, and then swap out $10 million worth of cocaine loaded on the airplanes, fly them back and offload them at our Air Force bases. So that's how directly involved everybody, which included Bush and Reagan. Reagan, I don't know if he knew. I don't know whether Reagan knew a lot of. I don't know. I'm not sure, but he was the kind of guy that of course, Reagan and Bush was his vice president, and then he became president and continued, and then his son became president, and he continued it. They used their oil rigs for delivery points for the narcotics and all of that.
I've heard that.
But I literally had all of the documents that were sufficient unto themselves to impeach the whole bunch of them, put them in prison. And unknown to most people, Oliver North, who stood so proudly with his hand raised and then lied to the Senate and the Congress during the investigations, and then later admitted that he did, I had his personal handwritten notes that said, supply an airplane to pick up 1,500 kilos of MASH in his own handwriting out of his vest pocket. I have all of his computer material that the letters and internal communications to the president, the vice president, and everybody else relative to the arms and to the drugs, etc. I supplied that to the Senate or to the United States Congress at the time of the inquiry. I had chief legal counsel of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. When I sat in front of him and hand-delivered 155 pages of this stuff, I thought he was going to fall off his chair because they had never even seen it. These were the guys that literally ran the inquiry in Washington and had never even seen what the toy manufacturer delivered to them in their face back in the 80s. So 2 years ago or something, somebody came to me and said, Bob, there's a huge amount of money vanishing out of all sorts of budgets, big money, and if you could kind of look into it, can you look into this, try to figure out what's going on with this? And this had happened many times over the last 30 years now, where people would come or somebody would call or come by the office or whatever and drop off a little envelope with some information, and he would say, hey, we're going to look into this. Do you have anything that connects to this thing? Being involved with it for so many years. And so I said, well, sure, I'll look into it. I'm kind of I'm getting old at this point in time. Now I'm 75. And so at this time, I'm kind of been away from it. An awful lot of the people that were some of my best insiders are dead now. And half of them are natural deaths, and the other half expedited Central Intelligence operations to terminate them. But I said, sure, what are we talking about? And they said, billions of dollars. And, I said, billions? And then they said, well, even trillions of dollars. And I said, well, wait a minute. You can't even you can't money launder $1 trillion. How do you do that? I mean, I was used to, and some of those people that I'm talking about, we're used to chasing down something where some congressman's doing got advanced stock information and ripped something, or maybe it's $1 million because they wanted a new house in Tahiti or something. And so that was a typical thing that we're used to looking into. But I said, wow, what are we talking about? So I got the necessary basic information to start looking into it. And this is like 2.5 years ago now. And one thing led to another. And the bottom line, I found out to my surprise and literally shocked to find out that there were $1 trillion at a time vanishing from the budgets. And you have to get a handle on this. We have a handful of budgets. You had the legitimate budgeting for government operations, which are supposedly agreed upon by the Congress and the Senate. They never read that stuff. Sometimes you're talking about a 4,000-page budgeting layout for, So any time a congressman said, I went over all of it, went before I voted, that's baloney. I mean, it's almost, it's laughable, and it is ridiculous.
It is.
They say, oh, we carefully went over it, get out of here. That's a joke. So, but you have the budget that theoretically is there year in and year out, and they vote on it and change it and update it and all that, and usually try to put little things into it where they ripped off a couple million to go into their district so they can get elected again next year to build a library for blind people or something like that. Some of the projects that they do are absolutely ridiculous, like investigating why rats and mice can't see good on a foggy afternoon or something like that. You can't imagine the money that goes into different districts under a congressional person's name or a senator's name in their area for stupid, moronic, unbelievable things. $1 million here, $2 million here, $3 million there. And then if you look closely at it, you'll find out his cousin is a guy that's running some company someplace, and he needed a $10 million financial assistance, and that's what it amounts to being. Stuff like that. All right, but that's not a big deal. But what was going on was they had black budgets that are interesting. Yeah, well, what's interesting is, first you have regular standard budgets, okay, and they steal out of that. That's pretty easy. Then they have black budgets that, in the most case, a lot of congressmen and senators are not cleared for secret at all, or top secret. That's for sure. They're just not cleared to even see it, so they don't even know what they're saying okay to. And they have these carte blanche things like $2 billion for a particular aircraft development program, and they don't even know what it is, but they sign off because otherwise, they're going to make somebody angry, so they don't do it. They'll just go ahead and sign off on these. And we have to remember, too, that what I just said, that is that the senators and congressmen, very few of them are at the top secret cleared level, period. End of story. So that they don't know. An awful lot of them do not even know what I know, and that's only because I had people for so many years that would tell me, they not supposed to, but they did, and told me about things, and so I actually knew more and had more information than many of the senators and congressmen. Then they have budgets that are not just secret, but then they have the top secret, and then they have above top secret, and so you have this giant amount of money that nobody knows anything about going someplace, and that's on a regular basis. So what I found out when I
building something.
Yeah. So when I got into looking into it, and which became the this heart, this center of the investigation that I just completed a year ago, finalized it, and released a DVD, made it available to the general public, and it is that in 1983, some point in time there, when Ronald Reagan was president and George Bush was actually president but was pretending he was vice president, he and his administration, they came in and they said, we got some really bad news. The rumor of Planet X, which had been banged around for 50 years, I mean, been written up in stories and books and movies and all kinds of stuff about this planet called Planet X Nibiru, whatever you wanted to call it.
Zachariah
Sitchin. Zachariah Sitchin had an awful lot to do with it. He wrote several books talking about his deciphering thousands of clay tablets. As a matter of fact, there was like 22,000 of these. They were discovered in the Syrian area, where they literally had written and inscribed like books, if you will, and he was one of the few people that was able to decipher it. And when he did, he found out the story of this planet that comes around from the far reaches of our solar system, comes back around. He thought, and he claimed, that it was a 3,500-year cycle, an orbit of a cycle of 3,500 years. Now, there's a big dispute about that between people that have been studying this for their lifetime. I was not into it for my lifetime, but and there is a push and a pull between groups that it may actually be 350 and not 3,500.
Right, I've heard that too. Yep.
Right, and the point of that is, and by the way, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but for the people that don't know anything I'm talking about,
I love the Earth Chronicles.
So this planet, anyhow, comes around in a huge orbit. It's similar to Halley's Comet. Halley's Comet, which everybody knows about, comes around every 75 years. Now that you can set your calendar and give or take a day or two, 75 years, Halley's Comet will be back around again. And it comes around, goes around the sun, and circles back off into, again, in that case, it's a 75-year orbit. And this one, the Nibiru Planet X, had been written up to being and analyzed and calculated, et cetera, by many people, to be on a 3,500. Now, it may be a 350 year, all right? And if it was a 350 year, that meant physically that it would have actually passed around the sun and back out 10 times during a 3,500 year period. So, and since 350 years ago, right now, we still, we don't have real good records. There were no films or news reporters. Well, that's maybe a good thing. But either one of them could be right, is what I'm saying. And the idea was that a 3,500 year, it's just a matter of adding a zero during translations. So if you're doing translation with information from antiquity of ancient history, going back to the time of the Bible even, the point is that they did not use zeros. The manner by writing it down would have been something like 10-fold less 60 or something of that sort. They weren't using zeros in the regular writing down of numbers. So this very easily can be an error of whether it's 3,000 or it's 300. So that's so you understand where that came from.
They call that a shar, right? Every 3,600 or 3,500 years is a shar. But here's the point. It could have been coming every 350, and we don't have any better reason to know that that's negative or positive. All right, so we don't know which one's right. From the 12th planet, it's 3,500, and I liked how Zachariah Sitchin, he said that life on another planet would be timed to that planet. So the life that was living there, 3,500 years for us would be 1 year to them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, and that's a different thing too. I mean, so that's another whole separate thing. But it can actually simply be the fact that during the period of time that he was writing about, the zero was not a simple circular figure on numbers, and that it wasn't brought in, I don't think, until the time of the Roman Empire or something in that period of time. You see, when they started using zeros, and so the mistake is very easy. So we'll move past that. The bottom line for us, and let me get back to Reagan Bush. What happened in '83 was the first time they had one good, real big signaling telescope that was sent out to outer space. And when they sent it out, they came back and they said, uh-oh,
It looks like this thing is there. And if it's coming back, they're doing the calculations, and they said this thing's going to be in another 20, 30 years. All right? This was 1983. All right? So anyhow, they did the calculations, et cetera, and they said, we are in serious jeopardy, because if this is going to do what all the old studies, including the Bible and a multitude of scriptural writings, including the ancient Chinese and the ancient Tibetans, the monks on the hills on the top of Tibet, and all these cave writings on the walls and all the rest of the stuff that people have studied for so many years, and a couple of people have done a great job, like a Mr. Gil Broussard had done a tremendous amount of studies on this, and even went to China, was living in China for a while, studying the Chinese writings out of the libraries and things of that sort, where they actually, 1,000 years ago or sometime, it was written down, in black and white, the entire travels of this thing coming into the sky and flying across, and they called it a flaming red dragon that passed this over the nation of China and all that. So they had all these writings, and it's in the Bible like crazy, and it's called the wormwood, and et cetera. It's in the biblical revelations, describes exactly the events that were described when this came around back in biblical times. So, it's not, it used to be joked about because nobody could see it. And then, of course, the realization is that it's an infrared planet. It's something that you can't see. It doesn't put out its own light, so we won't see it until it gets coming in close enough to pick up our own sunlight. Once it does, then you will see it. But what I discovered from doing, again, my investigations, and I was, the idea, and again, I was looking for the money. Remember that, okay? I was looking for, where does the big money go? What was it that all of a sudden in the 80s changed all kinds of budgets? It changed what we were doing with our outer space NASA projects. It changed. They started talking about doing that Star Wars. Remember the Star Wars thing with Reagan, and it was going to set up this ability to put satellites out all over, and they could pick up the launching of missiles coming towards us, and we'd be able to find them and shoot them down real quick and all that, and how great that would be. Except I found out that most of those telescopic things they put out, they were aimed out to outer space. They weren't being aimed at Russia and China. I mean, they had some of them, of course, but the reality were that they were snooping and watching things going in outer space. Then I found out that the Vatican came a few years back and cut a deal with the government here, and in Arizona they built a huge infrared telescope, and that's in Arizona. And by the way, it's called Lucifer. I don't know. That's kind of strange for the Pope. Yeah. The Pope named it Lucifer. I thought that was a little weird, but he did. So I started looking, and I asked around a few directions with people that had contacts and also had some extraordinary brain cells. And, I said, what is it that happened in that period of time that made all these things change? They started doing crazy stuff. They built this giant underground facility underneath the Denver airport. They had that project there, and they started building this. They got 5 times as much underground than they have on the top of the airport up there. I went in within a week of the opening in 95, when they opened the Denver airport. I snuck in and went underground, and that is one heck of a giant facility underground.
I've heard.
Okay, and they talked about it, but I've been there, done that, and I've seen it.
No kidding. Wow.
That's the end of that dispute. But and I had also received during the 90s that I had just kind of put, let's say, on the back shelf, but I had seen films, videos, and photographs, stills, and what have you. I was, again, just a little bit before we had real good digital stuff, and they had truck drivers that had gone underground at one facility and driven 800 miles and came up at another location underground. I didn't know whether to quite believe that or not, back then, and I was doing other things at that time. Like I say, I actually was doing things like for Sonny during that kind of time frame. So I didn't get into making a big deal, but I kept it. I kept the pictures. I kept films, and I kept their stories. I had all of that in files. And somebody came to me 2.5 years ago, I guess, try to give a time date on this, and said, whatever it is that's bothering them, bothering the crooks out of government, instead of just stealing a few million for their next summer vacation home, the money's disappearing. But have you realized about do you know about all the underground facilities? And it was some military guy that had seen some of them, and I said, well, I was kind of like, I was aware of it, but I don't. Are you talking a lot, or what do you, because I didn't think there was that big of a deal, because in reality, before '83, there wasn't. There was a few of them, underground, and most of them were legitimate, like the NORAD facilities for keeping track of missiles and possible invasions and what have you. So I said, okay, is there really big numbers of these, or what are we talking about? And so he handed me information relative to the bottom line is we have built 103 of these in the United States. There's that many of them underground. They literally are gigantic hideout survival facilities for the elite upper crust of the United States of America. We're talking locations that can hold 10,000 people. We're talking locations that have high-speed monorail magnetic maglev trains that go 400 miles an hour underground, and they go from one location to another. I have live footage of a few of the facilities that had been handed off to me that shows 18-wheelers side by side and passing at intersections under the ground in these locations. They have some of the facilities have extra amount of capability of growing foods underground, complete vegetation growth of necessities. They had, then I found out, I have paperwork related to it, I found out that in fact they had been for the last 5 years buying freeze-dried foods and survival foods by the millions and millions and putting them into the underground facilities. And with a time frame to have most of it done by 2012, 2014, the delivery of the foods. We actually have FEMA paperwork that shows their inquiry with some of the bigger companies and asking them how many tons of this food or that food could be supplied in a short period of time upon request, et cetera, et cetera. For the last 5 years, there has been a shortage of survival foods to go into the regular retail outlets above ground for the public consumers. They have had a shortage. The big companies have not even been able to get the orders that they wanted, such as Walmart, not being able to get as much to sell to their people in their stores because the government had taken all of the advanced contract for delivery on the freeze-dried survival foods. So that's what they had been, where all the money had been disappearing. And Donald Rumsfeld, who was the head of the Defense Department, sat down in front of one of the congressional inquiries that I'm referring to back. As a matter of fact, this was in 2001. Let me think. 2001. It was, he sat before the Congress on an inquiry on disappearance of some monies, and he said the Defense Department in the last few years has been unable to account for $2.3 trillion. And he told the United States Congress about that. All right? When he told it to them was the day before the 9/11 Twin Towers attack on the World Trade Center.
Wow.
The day before. Now, what also happened, all of the paperwork that would have supported that information was destroyed on that day because of the explosion that took place at the Pentagon. You still have me on picking up Mars.
Is that your fan, Jeff? Anyway.
Okay. Anyhow, so as long as we're still going. So the bottom line was, here's Donald Rumsfeld, the head of the Defense Department, admitting, of course, he's part of the program. He's a bad guy. He's a bandit, and that's the end of the story. Absolutely. I mean, I can go into stuff that people don't know about him and have your hair fall out. Now, so you had 2.3 trillion with a T, folks, disappeared. Then we had the lady that was in charge of overseeing the Federal Reserve. Theoretically, she's supposedly the auditor, so to speak, or part of that thing. There is no such thing as an audit of the Federal Reserve because the Senate and the Congress are not permitted to look or even ask for it. So when some senators and congressmen had requested to do an audit to find out from the Federal Reserve if, in fact, there is any gold still in Fort Knox, he was told by the Federal Reserve to go away and stop bothering them because they are not part of the U.S. government. It's an the Federal Reserve is a gathering of banks, an association of banks with a couple of people at the head, and the Congress and the Senate are not legally allowed to require an audit of the Federal Reserve ever, okay? And that's legitimate. That's the way they set it up. And the Federal Reserve, for example, Ron Paul, who came forward a couple years ago, 2008, wanted to have an audit on the gold. They told him to go away, get out of his office, and don't bother him. End of story. So the Senate and the Congress cannot get an audit of the Federal Reserve. All of the gold formerly in Fort Knox is now gone. The bulk of it, probably, and I can't give a good percentage, but it's either like half of it has been put into creating these hideout underground facilities, and the other half is still in bullion cubes hidden away in one or two of the underground facilities. The gold is gone. When Germany and a couple of other countries in 2008 came forward because they needed their gold. See, many foreign nations, almost every one.
I remember that, yeah.
All right. And what happens, every major foreign nation has tons of gold in Fort Knox on reserve, held for security in our Fort Knox, considered to be the safest compared to having it in Berlin someplace where they might have, not as secure. All right. So an example, Germany has 1,500 tons of gold.
Oh, shit.
That's right. 1,500 tons of gold in the federal Fort Knox system. When they asked for it, they were told to come back in 6 years.
Yeah.
Now, what they ended up doing, because it started making a lot of ripples in the water, all right, what they ended up doing, they did give them, I guess, a couple of tons of it or something, but they didn't get all of it. And they didn't get a good, accurate audit. Nobody gets an audit. They just say, go away. And literally, it's a mind-boggling. It's nobody ever realized or paid attention to it. Ron Paul didn't, and Ron Paul didn't know. He went in there, and he said, the Senate and the Congress has to have an audit. They said, get out of here. They said, look at the way the mandate is written up. When we created the Federal Reserve, look at the paperwork. And he did.
Right,
and they were right. So end of story. So what do we have? We have trillions and billions over the last 20 years been slithering out the back door someplace. There's so much, it's mind-boggling. Something like in the Federal Reserve, by the way, who spins money off to foreign banks and gold off to foreign banks to kind of stabilize the world money situation. That is part of what they do. Of course, whether it's done legally or not, we have no idea because they don't do an audit. Okay. But the bottom line was this lady who I started to mention a few minutes ago was at the auditing position, so to speak. She came forward to the Senate and the Congress and answering questions. And one of the congressmen said, we understand that there's $9 trillion that you don't know where it is. Is that true?
Right.
And she sat, and I had this on film. She literally sat there and kind of said, well, we're just not sure exactly where it went. That is a right figure. It was like 9.2 or something trillion. She says it's going to foreign banks, but I couldn't tell you right now which banks have it. Okay, so there's another 9 trillion. All right, so just in not counting the gold, for crying out loud. And by the way, if you do the mathematics at $1,400 an ounce, and the amount of tonnage in terms of the gold is the numbers of value is really obviously becomes so much. You run out of ink with the zeros. It's really a tremendous amount of money gone. So anyhow, I then started looking in a multitude of directions, and again, the bottom line was, what is it that would scare the heads of government? Oh, and by the way, I say heads of government because I found out Russia in 2010 or 9, around that period of time, put out an internal to a mandate to have 5,000 smaller underground facilities. Actually, you could almost call them bomb shelters, if you will, survival.
Right? Same thing.
But now not as big as the ones I'm talking about here in the United States, where they got 18-wheelers and trains running around them. Okay, but they had a mandate to complete within 2013, January 2013, a couple years ago, to have 5,000 of these finished in Russia. Now, they do have some big ones, one of which, by the way, will hold 50,000 people underground in Russia in the mountain. All right, that's bigger probably. I think the biggest one we have is probably maybe pushing it to 20,000, but there's a couple of them that could handle 10,000 underground. But they have one that'll hold 50 to 60,000 people, and then several other smaller ones. The smaller ones literally are pretty much for not the elite. In other words, it's a secondary thing, maybe for the lucky upper crust, that to save some of the general public, but they're not really big, et cetera, et cetera. Now, so I reached a point where I'm saying, okay, and Europe also did the same thing. They've got many good-sized underground facilities. So the next question is, what's going on? Why was it that all the thieves up in the Congress and the Senate, and et cetera, in the military, upper crust, why did they all of a sudden stop lining their pockets directly and worry about underground? Why would they go underground? And so that's where we linked and put together the obvious, which was that the Nibiru Planet X is heading back. And that was, in fact, the reason for going underground. Now, at the same time, all along, going back to the 90, 95, and that period of time, was when the government was started supplying the sheriff's department and all of the different military sheriffs and police stations, et cetera, around with military equipment, grenade launchers, armored vehicles, water tanks, machine guns, tanks, bullets, weapons of all sorts and everything. They started putting these out to police stations and sheriff departments, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and everybody said, well, what's going on with that? What's the connection to that? And the connection is this. And by the way, also when I checked into the Vatican, they're completely up to speed on this. That was why they put in the big infrared telescope in Arizona called Lucifer. The reason they put that in and everything, it's all part of and parcel to this whole thing of keeping an eye on it. And they have been aware of it for many, many years and still are, and participating at the highest level of keeping this thing quiet. Now, here's the problem. And because a lot of people say, well, when are they going to tell us? When can we, first off, they say, when can we see it? Next one is, when's it coming? When do we expect it to be coming back in real time? And when are they going to tell us what's going to happen? This is bad. We're not going to know about it. Well, the truth is, no, you are not going to know about it. And you will never have a formal, my fellow American speech from the President of the United States unless it is at the very last point in time, and at that time, he and everybody else will be underground already. Okay, they'll be gone, and the speech that would come out, if there ever is one, will be literally the last day's speech, so to speak, before it's about to hit, or it's not going to hit. That's a I don't mean to say that, but it's coming close to passing close to Earth. They have no intentions of ever telling the people of the globe that that's happening for real. So
they're going to use it to depopulate the planet if they want to, supposedly.
Right. So well, no. So here, but here's what happens. Here's what's physically happening, and why this comes back to the weapons going to the police force. What they're going to have to do is declare martial law in the United States before the Planet X Nibiru is starting to be seen in the sky. Once it's seen in the sky, headed in to go around the sun and then back out for another several hundred or a couple thousand years, whatever it is, all right, when it comes in, it'll be first seen as a star, like a new star. And it'll be coming in, it'll get brighter and brighter and bigger, and it will take about 3 to 4 months from the time it's seen in the sky for it to come around to its closest point, passing around the sun and then headed back out. Now, again, I mentioned Gil Broussard, who has real good studies on this thing, has done, and he's the one who went to China and has been doing the complete scriptural thing and can match up every single event to this thing with documentation of ancient times around the globe. So this is not just a handful of idiots someplace coming up with a funny story. All right. So here's where it has always been when it came closest to where it actually passes and blocks the sun, does an eclipse of the sun for a brief period of time, and then goes on around and goes back out. All right. That has always been around March, April period of time. March the 25th to 27th is usually approximately the period of time of most close to the planet Earth. All right. So also the mathematics of this is that it would be probably seen in the sky in December. Now, originally, and now there are a lot of miscellaneous variables in this thing. Changes in the calendars, the calendars of antiquity. They changed their method of counting days, and like you said, how many days, and back then versus how many days now for a month, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of little variables, and it's kind of a little bit. Again, I refer like to Halley's Comet. Give or take, in that case, it's only usually about give or take a week. That comes around 75 years. When you have one that has an orbit of an unknown, maybe like just say 350 to 3,000 years, the time of its return is always been, though, March and April, that period of time, the merger between March and April, and seen in December. I anticipated that we would see it this December, last month, all right? That did not happen. And I also noted that there was no martial law, although they're setting it up. They're setting that up really profusely. They have to simply come up with one of 2 or 3 ideas that will be accommodated by the American people to accommodate and accept a martial law.
Right.
All right, and I'll get to
either an economic collapse or ISIS.
Yeah, and I'll get to that in just a second. But the point in time, here's the point. It always has been a March, April kind of period of time on the previous 2 passes of this thing that have been found in the writings of biblical times and the writings of antiquities of Chinese, the Chinese monks, the monks in Tibet, and the Chinese people that actually were the astronomers for the Emperor of China. And they were very serious. And over there, if the astronomers did misinterpretations, the emperor cut their heads off. So they weren't making up anything either. They were pretty serious going back 1,000 years or whatever. So here's my point. When people say, when is expected? All right, those people, even that differ with each other as to whether it's a 350 or a 3,500 time period, that doesn't make any difference. Politically, on the globe, the underground facilities are finished. They are still working on a lot of them, but most of them are finished. If they needed them next week, they could use them, all right? That's my point. They are filled with food. They are still putting food in and doing everything, final touch-ups on all of them. One of them, by the way, was the old NORAD facility that had been in a granite mountain for years. Unbelievable secured location. But that's an old one. And they went in, closed it down a while back, about a year and a half ago, did some changes to it, and they've now moved back into it. They're using it. However, NORAD, the normal old function of NORAD, is not being carried out anymore. It is another one of the underground facilities. The newer ones are astronomical. They're mind-boggling, like I said, with maglev trains, food growing ability, interfacing connections between one side of the nation to the other side in terms of underground roadways. And China also, I left them out. China has done the same thing. China started a few years ago, and they have thousands of miles of underground facilities. They built digging. We have a huge tunneling machines. And people say, how in the world do they dig into the granite mountain and finish this in a year? They have underground digging equipment that I also have. By the way, I have to say this. All of this that I'm talking about and much, much more, including photographs, pictures, live footage of every one of the nations, everything I'm talking about, every single thing I've touched on base on here is completely covered in the DVD that's available to people that I put out approximately a year ago now, just at the beginning of this last year. It's called Incoming, and it's available on my website, bobfletcherinvestigations.com. You can buy it. It's $24.95. It's 4 hours, double disc DVD report, has everything and answers every question. Now, let me get back, and we pay the postage on it.
Good.
All right. So the point is now that the underground facilities in China, like I said, thousands and thousands of miles, they have the machines, which the machines are so big, they're tunneling machines. They go into the side of a mountain, and when they come back out with just a single one of these machines, you can drive an 18-wheeler into the mountain. Okay. Then when they go back the second time, they have big enough that you now have coming and going of an 18-wheeler. Two 18-wheelers can pass with the two passes of this thing. The Chinese, which I have pictures of, as a matter of fact, also, the Chinese built theirs with one unit that is two of our biggest ones side by side, and then another 25% larger in diameter in the middle of the two. It's a three-headed boring machine to go into the side of the mountain, and so big that you can, when it backs out, you can drive two 18-wheelers down and have a dance in the middle of the highway. That's how big it is. Unbelievable, man. I have all of that in the DVD, as a matter of fact. Now, I have to mention another point that fits into the whole puzzle, and that is a thing called a seed vault. Back in 2012, in Norway, actually, or near Norway, they have an island where they put a seed vault, and it was an internationally cooperative seed vault where they go into the side of the mountain. They have seeds to be able to replicate and regrow every growing plant on the globe of any value at all, and it's millions of these seeds. Actually, I think it's billions. Billions of those seeds are in the seed vault. And, of course, you can look it up. Just look up seed vault. Actually, seed vault, and write seed vault Norway or underground seed vault, and it'll come up. You got plenty of information on it if you want to look at it, just on the computer. That's cooperative among the nations. So what we have is all of the very upper level, upper crust people of all of the globe know about it, know it's coming. They have an idea when it's coming because their intention, again, their contractual agreements with the survival food people was to make sure they had most of these places filled as of 6 months ago. So they're not putting the food in there for 10 years, 20 years, 5 years away. They're putting the survival foods in there today so that it could be used next week, next month, 6 months, or a year from now.
Okay, so Bob, could this be to prepare for some sort of nuclear war that they're interested
No. It's way beyond. The problem with this, it's way beyond. There probably would never be a nuclear war because we, the United States, for one thing, could stop off any possible nuclear conflict in one day. Totally stop it and finish it off, okay? Terminate it. That's not going to happen. This is not something that we idiots called mankind on Earth are generating ourselves. It's not going to be a war. It's not going to happen. What sense would it do for Russia to totally destroy the United States and never be able to use the property for 100 years because of nuclear contamination? What point would there be to that?
Well, I couldn't tell you that. They don't make any sense to me. As far, I mean, are the leaders of this planet are psychopaths? They don't really. Think
no. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're true. You know, the only really true psychopath is that the North Korean screwball. You know, those poor people, and they don't even know what's going on.
These Islamic countries.
Yeah, well, Islamic, but you know, here's the problem. I mean, no, there are no Islamic countries. Now we have that ISIS problem that we created, you know, and the idea that for them to come forward to us and say, "Oh, gee, they sure surprised us," you know, get out of here. That's stupid.
Right.
Surprise us with what? Oh gosh, they snuck in 150 tanks on the border of Yemen or on the border of Iraq or Iran, and we didn't see them? Get out of here. See? So that's all garbage. That's under a separate category. It's called BS. It's called false flag garbage. You know, you know. Now there's always a chance. Don't get me wrong. The idea of one screwball getting a briefcase nuclear bomb, which the Russians have. Russians have 100 of them that they've lost.
Really?
How's that make you feel? Now, it doesn't mean that they know how to set them, you know, make them happen. The Russians admitted a couple of years ago they lost 100 suitcase nuclear. Okay. But, you know, that's goofy, but that's a fact. All right. But the point is, it's not for that. And I will maybe briefly explain what I mean by us terminating a nuclear war before it happens. I'll maybe mention that in a minute or two, and explain that. But the point is, the entire globe is all of a sudden, again, being done by the highest levels of our military and the highest levels of the corrupted government and in all governments. And of course, their thing. By the way, I had a complete direction I was going a few minutes ago, and we got away from it. The weapons. Why are they putting all of those weapons for? Actually, it's almost 20 years they've been sliding this stuff into these police departments, and what they're doing is saying, "Hey guys, you know, we have some weapons available coming back from the desert. You know, we have some armored cars, we have some machine guns, we have hand grenades, we have gas launchers, and we have all of these things, and gas masks and bulletproof vests and armored cars and all this stuff." And they're asking the local sheriff in Omaha, Nebraska, if he wants to have a couple. So, you know, at the police level, those guys love it. You know, I mean, they love the idea of saying, "Oh, wow, yeah, that's what I need." And we go in and hit these drug dealers in downtown Detroit, and we'll have armored cars, and we'll have this, we'll have that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're just excited like a kid in a candy store.
Oh,
you know. And then they say, "Well, you know, we can't really afford that stuff. You know, we can't budget that." Okay.
Oh, of course not.
So, Uncle Sam says, "Well, what we'll do is we'll give it to you like almost free." And we'll set up some, you know, and we'll set up some kind of a pay-as-you-go deal. You know, you don't have to pay for it right away. Give you 10 years to pay for it, and so get it to you for almost. We'll write it off down to almost nothing, and blah blah blah. We'll make sure it's working good before you get it, but you know, we'll do all that. So anyhow, the bottom line is they have placed all of this extraordinary amount of military gear in the police department. Now here's the little coup de grace to it. They say, "Now listen, we're giving you all this equipment for almost nothing. We just want you to sign an agreement that or verbally is good enough for us, that when we call for your assistance, like in a time of a national emergency, if we ever have martial law or something that we have to declare, we want you to come on board with the wonderful new Homeland Security, and be ready to answer and fully respond to the demands of Homeland Security. And they say, oh, yeah, sure, don't worry about that. That's great. We don't care. That's good. Sure, we'll do that. So what they're going to do is, and they've already got, now they have all this equipment is in the back parking lot of all these police all over, and some of it came up, a few months ago when they were complaining about, when they were having the black and the racial problems and police shootings of black kids and stuff like that, sure. Right? They complained, they said, hey, what's the deal here? We came out with a demonstration and they got military equipment and guys with helmets and, all of this stuff. What is that? And they complained, the citizens complained about it, but they had no idea that of what it's for. And it's there for the point in time, once it's certified, once Nibiru Planet X gets close enough coming in on its return trip, then they can mathematically do the math, and they can say, here's the day it's going to be, give or take 5 days, this is when it's going to be here, But it has to get close enough, and it has to be seen. It has to physically be seen and all the rest of that, too. Really, So what they're going to do, though, is they're going to have martial law in place, and it'll be on every major nation of the world probably the same week, all right? Because at no time are they going to come out and say, my fellow Americans, I have bad news. In about 30 days or 4 months, this big planet's going to come around, and an awful lot of everybody on the globe is going to die. Because here's what it's going to do. It's going to cause tsunamis like Noah's floods, because that's what created Noah's floods. It's going to cause electromagnetic impulses because it screws up the sun. It causes all kinds of problems with the sun itself, whipping around, even though it's only a couple of times bigger than Earth, maybe 5 times the size of Earth, but it has an effect. It's already having effect on the sun. And it'll cause, the biggest problem will be when it comes around, coming by the first time. Of course, it will do, like I said, a very long blocking of the sun. It will be a big, long solar eclipse. Then it will go on behind the sun. Now, coming with it is 2 or 3 planets of its own. We call them, not planets, moons of Nibiru that are traveling with it and circling like its own little solar system, so to speak. And it will be dragging as much as 25 million miles of space junk behind it. Now, what will happen is it will pass around behind the sun. Then we will go through, because of our timing of our orbit around the sun, we will pass through the tail of that darn thing. And we will have extraordinary meteor showers, because, or what will, for all intents, appear to be meteor showers. We will be traveling through the junk that's trailing behind it. That will happen 2 times. It will happen the first time when it goes around, and then we will go through it, through the tail. Then it will come back, going around the sun in the back, and then headed back out to Never Land, towards Pluto again, so to speak, out to the far reaches of the solar system once again. And we will pass through it, the tail, a second time. And it will be 155 days is the mathematics that they have done on this thing, the people that are keeping their hand on it. 155 days, give or take a week, for it to go around and back out. So we will approximately hit 2 times, 155 days apart, unbelievable meteor showers, depending on how bad and profuse the size of the pieces that will make it through our protective shield, so to speak, and burn up in our atmosphere. It's an unknown factor. So you're looking at tsunami water from the gravity alone of this thing passing close by. We have to remember, we don't think, unless we're scientists, you don't think about the moon and the sun does a gravitational thing all the time, and it's what does our high and low tides. The water going in and out is being pulled by the moon and then released and then pulled again, and that constitutes the tides. When you have something that's several times the size of Earth passing fairly close in terms of astronomical measurements, coming fairly close to the Earth on 2 occasions, it will yank the water right out of the seabed, probably as much as 100 miles inland on every coast of the entire globe will probably be washed off.
Right before you came on, I spoke in detail about all this. And there's actually a couple of new theories I'm hearing that this orbit of Planet X isn't actually elliptical. It's more like a figure 8. So it's not going to, the claim is now that it's not going to pass us twice. But it's actually...
Well, astronomically, I believe it's a physical impossibility to be what we would call a figure 8. It's actually just a big, elongated orbit. Now, and by the way, I was still skeptical in the middle of my investigation on this. Boy, I didn't want to put my name on this thing, you know.
Right. Well, I don't blame you.
I mean, I really didn't. I really didn't. And then but finally eventually it's like, this is what it is, you know. I mean, I don't see anything else that would fit into all of this stuff. Everything, including, you know, the Pope and the underground seed thing and all the rest of that crazy stuff. It's just way too many things, and the only thing it could be would be some extraordinary known galactic kind of a problem, something that's totally out of control of the average, of human beings. This is some external problem that can't be settled, you know, like between Russia and China and America or any of that kind of stuff. And all of that local politics related to all of that stuff. Right now, it's all an ongoing show, for crying out loud, because they are scared at the highest levels on this darn thing, and that's all there is to it. They're just really spooked. But in terms of the orbit, one of the things that finally something that bothered me, because I thought, geez, you know, they're talking about 3,000-year orbit, you know, and I thought, God, that's like outrageous. That means this thing is so far out when it goes out. Maybe whether it's 200 years going out and then 200 years coming back, or if it's 1,800 years going out and then 1,800 years coming back, that would be the 3,500. All right. I'm thinking to myself, I'm not, like I say, not an astronomer. I know more about it now than I did, but the idea that kind of a giant orbit would exist and this darn thing would keep coming back seemed extraordinary to me. But then, lo and behold, back a few years ago, and I think don't somebody yell at me, jump on me on this, like in 1990s, I had people say, well, it wasn't 97, it was 92, you know, who cares? Okay, but sometime around 97, we had, I think it was it the Hale-Bopp comet? I'm thinking off the top of my head.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so there was this a comet that came around. They saw it coming. They said, hey, we didn't know about that one. And they named it Hale-Bopp under the name of 2 guys that found it. And it came in, it swooped around around the sun, went back on out again. It was pretty neat. They knew when it was going to arrive, and everybody watched it, and they got wonderful pictures and millions of the tail on that was like 20 million miles. Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. So
I got all the pictures sitting in front of me. So you.
Okay. So now what happens though? When I looked at it, they said it's 4,200-year orbit.
Okay.
For the Hale-Bopp. So they didn't know about it. They saw it. They found it. It came in. It did go around the sun. It did its thing, and it disappeared, going back out. And they did the mathematics, and they said it won't be back for 4,200 years. So then right away I said, so I had this little thing I was hanging on to myself personally that I thought 3,000 years was ridiculous, right? But now all of a sudden they say, there goes Hale-Bopp, and it's 4,200 years. So the idea that a real long, elongated orbit, like Hale-Bopp, is absolutely possible, legitimate, potential situation. So that threw my one little thing I had left where I thought I could say, well, that's stupid, it can't last. No, I was wrong, and the bottom line is it is a legitimate, the possibility of a 3,000-year orbit is absolutely legitimate.
Yeah.
So,
now,
here's
50,000 years or some crazy shit. And I just have one question left because we only have 10 minutes left. You mentioned earlier that no one has seen Nibiru. I mean, we're not seeing it in the sky in December and all that.
Right.
But I'm seeing I'm in a few video Nibiru groups, Facebook groups, and they're showing videos and photos.
About that. Yeah.
They're showing videos and photos of Nibiru.
Let me answer that situation the best I can. All right.
Good.
I put in my DVD. I put some real good pictures of way out things that had been shot and that could or could not be whatever. But it's number one. It's infrared. If you don't have infrared equipment equal to the $20 billion one that they got out there, and if you don't have one that good, the chances of you seeing or taking pictures is not happening until it gets in close. Follow me? All right. Once it's in close, then 10,000 amateur astronomers are going to see it in the same week, all around the globe.
I'm not talking about infrared. I'm saying that during the sun rises in the morning, people are.
No, I know. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
It's showing up as a second sun in the sky next to our sun. Yes,
and I understand that. Most of those are so you got to do just a size thing for yourself. First off, an awful lot of them are lens flares or something else. Okay, and there's some good ones. There are guys that said, no, I can prove that it's not a lens flare and this, that, and you see how this moves and that moves and everything. The bottom line is most of those are like the sun is the size of, let's say, a baseball at the end of your hand, your arm, a baseball, a standard softball, and the next to it is something like the size of a nickel, okay? And they're saying that's Nibiru, and it's got a funny color, and it's this and that. Okay, if it was that close, it would be doing such a number on everything already. And those types of pictures now were out 2 years ago, and it's still not here, okay? Right. That ain't going to happen. And like I say, according to all of the scriptures and the things where they actually have seen this darn thing come and go, and scratched it on the wall of the cave or whatever you want to say, or put it on the clay tablet. The bottom line was it was seen in 1 month, and about 4 to 5 months later, it came around and did its thing, got gigantic, came by, and went back out again. All right? So now here's what's happening now. Since I put out my DVD, the increased interest, and I'm not the only one, I don't mean to say that, but my timing was such that when I put it out, the interest went through the ceiling, and the multiples of tens and tens on this thing has become. Originally, it was like 3 or 4 little things. I put my DVD out and did a whole bunch of shows, and then in a short period of time, if you put up Bob Fletcher, Nibiru, Planet X, Bob Fletcher, in Unknown Planet, any of that, there's now like 2,000 hits for crap, 2,000 pages you could go to now. But the point is, the government now, as time is ticking away on this thing, they're starting to put people, like just the other day, CBS News came out and said there was this couple of astronomers that have seen Planet X. Let me correct myself. They think they located the thing that might be Planet X, and it's out there past Pluto. All right, and then the caveat to it was that they said it's like 1 million light years away. Okay, well, on that basis, nobody has to worry about it. Okay, now. Somebody else came out a little while back and did a similar thing. They said they literally have discovered in the last year, 2 years, let me put it 2 years, 1,100 planets that they never knew existed.
Yeah.
Not all in our solar system, but close enough or out there where they have been located. They have been named and numbered and taken pictures of some of them with a new telescope that they have, a couple of them now, that they have out in outer space. All right? But what they're doing now, because they still have to defeat the idea that anybody on Earth living person on Earth has anything to worry about. So if they come out with some astronomer who's financially taken care of under the table, and he comes out and says, oh, we found this. Now, the ones that came out, Excuse me. So, see, the ones that came out and said they found 2 planets and one together, and I don't know, whatever it was, just the one that was on CBS yesterday, actually, CBS Television News. Okay, but there's 2 caveats to that. Number one is that they indicate that it's so far away that just go back to sleep and you don't even have to worry. Your grandkids don't even have to worry about it. And if it was heading back at a gazillion miles an hour, it's still not going to be here for 1,000 years. Okay, so that was that. But additionally, that serves to throw cold water on anybody like me and the rest of the people out here, that are saying, hey, it's going to be in a year or so, because why are they putting all the food in the underground facilities? And they don't want it to go bad. They didn't put it in until they need it. Okay, right? And why do they have they're going to do the martial law thing? Oh, and let me anyhow. So I don't want to get off on another thing and miss my point. The point is when they see these, and then they come back and say, and it fits exactly what we consider to be this Planet X everybody's talked about. It's approximately the same size, and it's this, and it's out there by past Pluto and all of that. But again, don't worry about it because it's going to take so long. But the other caveat to the last report was they said, we've not seen it yet. See, this big deal they made included news on CBS, right? They have not seen it. They're working on mathematical movements of other stars being pulled and affected by this big thing that we can't see, cannot see, all right? Now, the bad guys, the government at the highest level, they can see it, folks. They have infrared telescopes with the capability to track it. Once it's close enough, and they have the telescopes are out there, way out by Pluto now, taking great pictures of Pluto, by the way. There's great brand new pictures of Pluto, all right, because they're right in the backyard. And they know damn well exactly where that thing is as we speak. But the guy in Omaha with a little scope at his university or wherever the heck, Kansas City, Omaha, Nebraska, they don't have the equipment. They're not seeing it. They said they don't see it. And so when you see people telling you that, oh, here is a picture of it right next to the moon, and it's the size of a golf ball, it would already be causing so much effect you couldn't go out at night and stand up. Now, I want to real quickly say a couple of things before we run out of time. The DVD's available. Folks, go on to my website, just put Bob Fletcher, and you can find it. Put Nibiru Bob Fletcher, and you'll locate it. The point is that they're going to have to do martial law. It's going to be one of these 3 things. It'll either be financial crash, which we legitimately, by the way, are in the global financial crash, the worst it's been since before 1929 stock market.
Yep.
It's
the first one that's saying that too.
Everything. Right. Everything is crashing. All right. So it could be potentially on to control the people on a financial crash, or a synthetic thing relative to 3 or 4 major terrorist acts in the United States of America. Now, I'm talking real something serious like the 9/11 kind of a thing, big buildings coming down in a bunch of places. That's good enough so that every American will say, oh, thank God we've got martial law. It's got to be that bad. It has to be appearing to be that serious. But it is, or it could be a biological.
Right.
A terrorist/biological epidemic, major diseases, germs put into the air in 5 cities or some other outrageous thing, okay? And the other one, now the last one is a confrontation that would appear that we're going to get into World War III, regular World War III like with Russia or China, all right? But those things are not going to happen either. China's not in a position to do anything like that. They are starving now. They're into a negative financial that they don't even know what to do about. All right, and by the way, I'm going to end with this. I'm working this entire last 9 months, 10 months on a new DVD follow-up report on this.
Awesome.
On the manner by which Nibiru Planet X can be stopped, and
that it can be stopped,
and it includes a manner by which we could stop any potential World War atomic attack in a couple of seconds.
Hold on, did you say we can actually stop Nibiru from passing?
Yeah.
Yes, and that's going to be in the report. I've been literally working 8 to 10 hours a day for over 9 months on this thing.
I've got to do this.
I'm trying to get it done and get it out. It's going to freak everybody because it freaked me out when I discovered it, more so than the fact that Nibiru might be coming in.
Yeah, when is this going to be coming out?
I don't see. I don't want any. I'll let everybody know.
Hold on a second. We do have 30 minutes left, so I'm just.
Okay. Okay, fine. That's cool.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I don't want you to rush out of anything, so I just want to let you know we do have 30 minutes left. Okay, good.
Okay, very, very good. Then I'll keep going from there then because there's a lot to cover still.
Please, I want you to. Yes.
Now, I'm not going to get into anything on that new report at all, and I have to on tonight. I can't any more than I have because until I finish and it's available, I don't want anybody's ordering it or talking to me about it. But it's something I'm working on now. It will be done shortly, and I will let you guys know right out in front. I'll send you copies of it.
Please.
But, it's going to be done this year, though, in the next few months, maybe.
Hopefully within 30 days.
Good. Wow. Awesome.
And it's I'll tell you what is the most amazing thing that I've ever done. Once when I got into it, and I can't even go any farther than that. I don't want people to. Please don't be ordering it ahead of time or ask me to hold it for you, any of that kind of stuff. No, but see, you get in a real trick bag because then if something happens and it doesn't get out, then I have to send people money back and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. No, we don't.
It gets into a turmoil. I don't want any of that. We had a little bit of that on the other one before. It was kind of a pain in the neck, playing catch up pool, and I don't like doing that.
Exactly. No, I don't blame you.
But I simply will say that this is the most unbelievable combination of things that I have discovered, totally verified, completely, and it answers a multitude of questions on an awful lot of things that have been never answered and hanging in the air with our corrupted government. Now, all right, here's what I will say this now. In my DVD, the one incoming, the one that announced all of this stuff originally, I did something that all of my peers said I was crazy because I kind of predicted stuff. There was, and it's not like some kind of a psychic predictions or anything like that. I don't mean it that. I'm not Nostradamus, but it was relative to the fact that if Nibiru was in fact coming back in as I do believe it is, and I hope that I'm wrong, but I said that as it comes in, now remembering this is 1 year ago in last January that I made it first available to the public, the DVD, and I said what you're going to see is the most outrageous weather in the history of the globe for the last 100 years. That's what's going to happen in 2015 and 2016. All right, I said with it because it's coming in, and like a bowling ball being rolled down into a bunch of pins. That's what it's doing as it comes with its little entourage of a couple of moons and all the junk it's pulling behind it. It's affecting like the entire solar system like a bowling ball. All right, it's pushing things away from it and forward away from it, causing. I said we were going to have the following events. If it appears that it is still coming during this whole last year of 2015 and as of today, that we would have extraordinary weather, we would have more tornadoes and hurricanes and blizzards and floods and droughts on the entire globe than we've had in 100 years. That is exactly what has taken place on the global weather. It's people talking like now, see, they pull this thing where they say, "Oh, what are they calling it? They got a name for it." Anyhow, they claim that the weather is being affected by a cyclical kind of situation, but that always affects only one coast or another. All right, it doesn't affect the entire globe, and that's what's happening. I also said that we would have increase in volcanoes. We now have probably I didn't look at it. I should have looked it up. As we speak today, there's probably a minimum of 47 active volcanoes blowing inside their tops. They have one or two that is affecting the ocean temperature off of. There's one off the coast of Oregon that's changed to where they're actually getting. Well, and nobody's talking about it, and they're blaming it. They're calling it the El Nino, right?
I heard that stuff would happen before anything that happened in like Los Angeles or that whole area, like on the San Andreas fault line. I heard that. Yeah, that's what I.
See, what's taking place is we were having storms start all of last year off of the coast out there, like they were tropical, like a hurricane.
Yeah.
But you can't have a hurricane in cold water off of Oregon, but you can if there's a volcano underneath. Exactly. It's under the water, heating the temperature. Okay. Now, I also said and predicted that we would, like I say, have these extraordinary numbers of storms, etc. The sizes would be different. The one in Mexico a few months back was the biggest hurricane. Fortunately, it missed all major cities. But it was the biggest hurricane ever in the history of Mexico. Came in through the coast down. It was gigantic storm that came in. As we speak tonight, it's the biggest snowstorm blizzard in 150 years in New York City. All right, it's going to wipe out New Jersey also, just like that other storm did Sandy a couple of years ago. Yep. Then still not even recuperated from that. New Jersey coastline the day after tomorrow will be wiped out like it was sitting in the middle of a tornado. These are all storms. The quakes, the numbers of earthquakes have increased 5 times what they normally are, all around the globe.
Yep.
And by the way, quakes, the earthquakes and volcanoes are related. When you get a given number of earthquakes, you can almost triangulate, draw lines between them, and you'll find that a volcano will be popping up, sticking its head up within 30 days of a swarm on these, a swarm of earthquakes will equal a volcano. And it's got to do with the stress on the overall crust. Now, here's where, and I put this in the incoming DVD, the report. I put this very clearly and explained it too, that what I found out when I was doing the investigation on this thing, and again, this is one of the things also that was like a tip the scale that I told myself that you have to do this report. Even if you're wrong, you have to do it. The planets, starting out by Pluto, all right, are all being affected. Now, they had already started to be affected back when I put this thing out 1 year ago, but they are now worse and being more affected than previously. Now, what I'm talking about is all of the planets as far out as Pluto, and including Pluto, is having a change in their atmospheres, the ones that have what we would call an atmosphere, change in the gas, change in the some of their orbits are being affected. They're wiggling, so to speak, or jiggling or vibrating in their orbits, changing a little bit. The storms, some of the storms on the face of these planets are changing. Some of them, like one big one on Saturn, I think it is, on Saturn that has been there for like 400 years. That storm is changing and getting bigger and then getting smaller and having variations to it. There is an atmosphere of salt, a salt-type content, sodium.
Yeah, on the moon.
On the moon. Never been before. All of a sudden, they now have a haze type of an atmosphere circling the moon, and it is a sodium content. All right? So every one of them is, and then, of course, I don't even want to get into, I'm trying to think, it's either Venus, and this is where somebody's going to say, well, you don't know which one is which. It's either Venus or Jupiter, whichever, I'm not positive. But the ice cap on it, on the poles, there's a pole ice cap on both the North and the South Pole. It's melting. Well, excuse me, I actually think it's Mars. But anyhow, it's melting the same as ice caps on Earth is doing. And by the way, the melting, this is another thing people are not paying attention to, even though, of course you got the groups, and I know they jump up and down and yelling and, change of the, the warming, the warming of the Earth, and that too many cows are farting nitrogen and things of that sort.
No, most of the planets are going through this.
Here's the point, though. The glaciers on Earth a couple of years ago, and escalating rapidly, are melting like crazy. Now, to give you an idea of how bad the ice caps are on Earth right now melting, and the glaciers running into, and the glaciers are melting kind of like from underneath. In other words, it's sort of like the globe on Earth is being heated a little from inside or something. It's very strange because they're melting like from underneath, like inside the shell of the ice coverage.
You're right.
Mars.
Mars. Yeah, I just looked it up. Yep.
All right, good. So, the point is, the glaciers are melting so rapidly on Earth as we speak that in Miami 2 years ago, they had to start putting pumps into the city of Miami Beach because every high tide is moving back then, now a year and a half ago, 4 blocks into the city of Miami Beach. The regular high tide now is moving into the Miami Beach city itself by about 4 blocks. Now, they put the pumps in. They cost millions of dollars. They literally switch on with the high tides to pump the water away and try to keep it out of the stores and the hotels. All right? Now, what also is going on, since then, it has continued to be so bad that in Miami Beach, they are actually, I'm trying to think of how they're doing this, they're actually raising the street level like 10 feet in all of Miami Beach. It's a gigantic multi-billion-dollar investment to try and raise the elevation up enough so that everything won't be totally wiped out in 2 years. So that's how serious the melting of the glaciers are. And my contention, along with that of many of the other scientists that have been involved with studying Nibiru for 20 years themselves, know much more about it than I do. The contention is that all of these things that I'm talking about, including the planetary activity all the way out to Pluto and then coming back in towards the sun, that's all the effects of Nibiru starting to affect the system, all right, including speeding up the heating of the ice caps on the planet Earth. Now, the sun is being affected already by it, all right, and see everything something we don't think about, and unless you're really a scientist and involved with this type of stuff on a regular basis, you don't even you just don't think about these things. But in the solar system, it's kind of like you think of it as a big bathtub, okay? So if you get a whole bathtub just filled with water, and you put 10 ping pong balls floating in there, and that's representing the planets, all right? And now you get it completely calm. You got the little ping pong balls floating on the top of it. Drop a golf ball on one end of the bathtub, and what happens? It affects every single one of the planets, and vice versa. All right. If one of those ping pong balls represents Earth and it's at the far side of the bathtub, if you drop that golf ball in there, you're going to be bouncing that ping pong ball, I can't even say that, around in the bathtub like crazy. Any little activity of an extraordinary, it's almost like an infection on the human body. Anything that comes in and intrudes into our solar system that's not part of it on a regular basis is going to cause a radical effect. The sun is doing crazy things. It's developing holes like they've never seen before on the surface of the sun. 2 years ago, by the way, one of those electromagnetic impulses from the solar flare came out, and it was huge, and we missed it. Our orbit permitted us to happen to miss that impulse, the solar flare that came off, and this is approximately, like I say, 1.5 years, 2 years ago when that happened. We missed it by 1 week on our orbit around the sun, all right? And if we had been struck by it, it would have fried, that electromagnetic force would have fried every satellite ahead of time, but it would have also wiped out all electrical functioning on the globe for probably 100 years. And this is a reality that the head of the Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano, when she quit 2 years ago, one of the last speeches she made was that one of these electromagnetic impulses, a solar flare, will hit the Earth within a few years, and not maybe, but will. And when it does, it will terminate the electrical on the globe, depending on what side of the Earth it hits, for as much as 100 years, because it will fry everything, all the generators, and also this is the type of thing you could expect with the passing of Nibiru when it comes close enough. It would be the equivalent of one of these solar flares, potentially, and it would fry all electrical functioning on the globe, at least or on half of the globe, but we're so interfaced, the possibility it would affect everything. But it will burn, it will burn every generator, every transmission line, every transmitting substation, every power plant. Just the whole ball of wax will be gone.
Cell towers, all that stuff.
Well, everything. And the point is, so what would happen is it's not like we know how angry we get if the power's down for. I mean, if it's down for 30 minutes, we throw stuff at the television. If it's down, you're running around looking for candles, all that kind of stuff. If it's down for a week, you really seriously have problems. But we can't perceive total non-electrical life in America for a year or 10 or 50, because the big power plants that would have to totally replace these generators, there are not enough of them to do it.
No, I agree with that.
Not enough. I mean, well, it's a scientific.
It's not even close.
It's a scientific reality. Now, the last time we had one big one from the sun that did hit was like in 1865 or something like that, about that period of time. And anything that was electrical, we didn't have much electricity at that time. Right. Anything, although all the wires that were up for the telegraph and all that stuff, all of that was melted. So whatever we had, and again, fortunately, we didn't have much. But in today's life, every single thing is electrical. And the banking, boom, banking's gone. Everything's gone. No fuel, no cars, no light.
You're right. You are right.
No way to pump. No way to get gas. They can't pump anything.
Can't pump.
You can't drive.
You don't have the light.
Can't drive anything. It would be, we're really talking spooky stuff. Now I was in Atlanta one year when part of that grid went down, for 8 hours or something like that.
Yep.
And I mean, when everything goes, it's really spooky stuff. I mean, and of course, like I say, even the banking and everything. See, whatever money you got in the bank, which is only a numerical electronic number anyhow until you pull it out, that's gone.
Absolutely.
There's even a good chance. See, there's even a good chance.
Bitcoin and all that stuff. That's all done by.
Sure, everything.
That's all gone.
Yeah.
All gone.
And think about this briefly. The possibility is that the money, because it is strictly computerized memory banks, with a solar flare, depending on how bad and where it hits, all of that could be totally erased. Mm-hmm. You don't have any money, sir. Sorry. You had 200,000 you had in your life savings. Sorry about that.
That will happen, you're saying, if when Nibiru passes?
Very, very likely the same kind of an effect.
Yeah, I
mean,
even solar flares could cause this. If we have big enough solar flares.
Chaos,
Solar flares can happen by themselves. Solar flares, all right. And again, I mentioned earlier, we just don't think about that. The possibility, and it's so possible.
It would completely cause chaos, but it wouldn't. I doubt it would ruin every electronic on the planet. It would probably just do one side of the planet.
Probably that.
Financial.
No, I agree with that.
But it would still cause chaos. It would destroy
well,
absolutely.
Well, just if you try to imagine life in America, I mean, we wouldn't care much about the other side of the globe anyhow if it was us. In other words, if it blows us out, takes all of our electrical actions down. Try to imagine what life would be like. Let's just say for 6 months. But what they've been talking about, if it was a major volume and hit a lot, broadside of the United States, North America, South America, you're talking about possibly 100 years to get back. That's outrageous.
They claim that the transformers that would blow out, the solar flare,
everything.
We would have to completely reorder. We would have to order the parts, and they would.
Where are you going to order the parts? How are you going to order parts?
Right, exactly. China would have to build them, and it would take 3 years to build them.
How are you going to ship them? See,
right.
You can't pump gas.
Oh,
see, you got to realize there. Now, what happens first off? No medical services.
Very carefully, Bob.
No emergency anything. No police.
Nothing.
No. You want to talk about gangbangers?
No.
You know. You want to talk about invasions?
It's perfect time for them to do that. Yes.
Manually pour out the whole.
I mean, it's something that that most people say. Well, I don't even want to think about it. You know. They just don't want to even put any thoughts out there.
Well, people like us want to put thought into it because we actually, give a crap about it. But
yeah, right.
That's why I want to move up to Maine.
When people
come up to Maine, everyone.
As far away from the population as possible, dude.
Yeah,
seriously, it's going to be The Walking Dead when this happens.
As a matter of fact, there was two people that said that. Napolitano did it, head of Homeland Security. See, they've done huge. Calculated reports and scientific investigations on these things for the possibilities and stuff. And it was a big speech for her. One of the last things she did leaving the Homeland Security a couple of years ago, she said, it's going to happen. It's not if, it's just when. And how bad it is depends on how the wind blows, whether it's 2 years or 102. And I mean,
it's going to happen.
Turn us into cavemen, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
You know what? I wouldn't mind.
In this society,
honestly,
we're screwed.
I have some days where I think that some of us would be better as cavemen. I really do. I really do. Yeah. It's kind of like a start over, like a reset switch. I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's like cleaning a slate. But see, the problem is the way things are now in the criminality.
Yeah, that's.
Who's going to do what? The biggest crooks in Washington are going to do whatever they can do, and they'll be out. They would be down in their underground facilities. Yeah. They got generators down there, and they got fuel, and they got.
All set.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff we were talking about earlier. They'll be down. Even if it was not a Nibiru situation, if you had a solar flare that devastated America.
They're all set. We're up here like burning up, and they're like
that's the reason that they gave the weapons to the people who are going to do martial law, and they'll be enforcing it blindly, with the exception of the ones that finally realize that, hey, wait a minute, we're guarding the rat holes, entrances to the underground facilities where the rich people are having martinis.
One thing interesting about martial law is that Zeta Talk site. I remember 15 years ago when I first read it. They claimed that towards the end, before Nibiru passes, the government's going to attempt to declare martial law, and it's going to fail, and the people aren't going to accept it. And in the end, we're going to rise up against the government once we realize that the government is
with what? See, the problem is if Nibiru is what it is and comes and does what it would do. Again, we're talking Noah's floods over again.
Right. So what do we do?
Best effort for yourself.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's a reality.
It will be the people along with the military.
Take care of yourself.
Because the military are going to want to take care of themselves too, and their families.
Exactly.
They're not going to do it.
This is a point where you got to look out for yourself.
That's all it amounts to. And again, the bottom line is, it's like you really start saying, well, how many? It's 140 million people, I think, is a population within 25 miles of the coastline around the United States.
Yeah.
They'll all be gone in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, then that's why martial law is going to fail, because the soldiers.
It might.
It's 100%,
but I guess I have to ask you, what's your point? In other words, they're going to be going underground, locked off. The doors that seal these things off are like 6 of them in a row, 4 feet wide, be able to handle a nuclear bomb in the front yard of the darn thing. See, so between you and I, it's like the martial law would be only to guarantee that they can get on their buses and airplanes and get the hell out of town and get to wherever they're going to go. See, and then after that,
that's a great point. Great point right there.
After that, they got everything they need, probably for 25 years. Now, they may have to be in there longer. I don't know, and I don't care. But they have what's necessary to maintain X numbers of people in a given hole in the ground for a 25-year period of time, food, communications, all of that underground, enough fuel to run the generators and the air filters and all of that crap under there. And probably, see, there are direct, which is the only one thing, I don't know this, but I'm making a speculation now. You can see the films and the videos and the pictures that I have.
What's your website, Bob? Because we only have a minute left.
Okay. Bob Fletcher.
We don't have
we'll do it again.
Yeah, go
Bob
ahead.
Fletcher. BobFletcherInvestigation.com. That's all. Bob Fletcher. You can punch Bob Fletcher in Nibiru, and then eventually you'll be able to get to it anyhow. Like I said, there's probably 2,000 hits on that thing now.
Awesome.
I mean, on
Chris
people
do. We have 5 minutes left. Sorry, I thought we only had a minute.
That's all right. All right, so there's not much more I can say. I will say this, which I said all of my interviews. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to be for like 2 years from now, do a show again, and and have you just say, "Boy, you're the biggest jerk in town."
Well, no, Bob. You know what? I don't think it's going to happen in the next couple of years. I think it's going to happen in like 8 years, because, like you said in the Bible, I think they're going to do the whole 7-year tribulation and then finish it off with a Jesus guy.
But you have to understand something. We've been into that, depending on how you want to classify it.
True.
See, the tribulation's already started. Exactly when, I don't know. See how you could put a day on that.
You can't.
What we're going through now and all the rest of the junk, what's taking place in terms of this snowstorm that's supposed to be, see, you know what they're expecting over there as we speak, starting in about 1 more hour? Where are you guys calling from?
Where are you calling?
Pennsylvania.
I'm calling from Maine, so I didn't. The snowstorm veered off before it got to me, but I think Jeff got it out there.
Okay, let me tell you. Here's what's happening right now. 200,000 people are already out of electricity over there, and it hasn't even started yet.
I know.
All right, they're expecting 70-mile-an-hour winds along the coast, and they're expecting 3 to 3.5 feet of snow in some places, with drifts of 6 feet because of the winds. Followed by an ice storm.
I'm lucky to be missing it.
They're in a state of emergency. There's 5 states, I think, that are declared state of emergency and shut down. All the planes have been interrupted, totally shut down from out of there. 7,000.
Thousands of plane delays. My friend is in Seattle, and he's actually sitting in an airport right now, waiting to come back to Boston because he's flying into Boston. Of course, Boston isn't getting affected by it, but they still have to.
You mean not yet? Not yet. You see, the storm is moving. It's coming up from the south, and with problems also coming from the east, from the ocean in, it's going.
We can't completely trust what the weathermen say anyway, because how many times?
Well, no, that's true. The only thing that I did, just because of my own interest, I used to live in New Jersey many years ago for a long time, but in Jersey had they never repaired from the 4 or 5 years ago.
They never did. They did anything. They barely did anything.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're about to get hit identical again.
Dude, they're fucked. Right. I said that this morning. I was talking to a friend, and I was like, New Jersey, out of all the people, with everything that happened before, to me, they're fucked. Excuse my language, but that is the word that I'm going to use for this, because I think that's a perfect word.
And I looked at, just before we started talking, I had looked at the updated satellite picture of the storm, and it's gigantic. It's like the one they had a little while back. The storm goes from Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee shut down, and it goes from Nashville to the northern side of New York State. My God, it's huge. It's covering states and states and states. I don't remember what the number was, people being involved, but it's just millions and millions of people. Again, they're even expecting like a follow-up in another day or two of it becoming an ice storm, and with 50-mile-an-hour winds, I mean, it's going to knock all the lines down. It's just unbelievable. It's just going to be a mess. I don't know what's going to happen. It's not going to go away. It's too big. Gigantic storm. But anyhow, so much for that. Somebody the other day told me this problems on the West Coast was because it was El Nino. I just told him today, I said, El Nino's on the other coast now. So
right.
I was joking with him, the El Nino's moved across the other side of the coast, so I don't know what you're going to blame this one on. But the bottom line is, somebody said, I'll tell you what, the head of NASA was asked in front of the Congress last year, what do we do if all of a sudden we saw a real big planetary object coming in towards Earth?
Yeah.
And the head of NASA paused and he said, pray. He just said, pray.
Yeah, what kind
of? Do you even have do you trust the head of NASA to make it?
Oh no. But I thought that was pretty appropriate.
I think you did.
You know,
I agree with that too. No, I agree with that. Yeah.
but the truth is, on the new DVD I'm working on, there is an alternate, and you're going to find out what it is when I get that finished.
You know, Bob, I've been thinking this for years, something like that, and I don't know. I hope I'm not thinking the same exact thing as you are, because I don't want to ruin it. But you don't have to tell me if I suspect if we all like somehow not prayed, but we can like somehow some sort of meditation, and we can magnetically influence this thing. That's my thought.
Well, you'll see something that it's going to really. You'll see a bunch of things that are going to really surprise you on the new report that we get the thing done.
I can't wait.
You told me about that, and I can't wait for that.
I cannot.
And I have to absolutely say this. This last DVD, obviously the Nibiru, is it's pretty intense, and I know it's pretty well done. I can't tell you. Matter of fact, I'm doing a translated interview for Russia in probably this week.
That's awesome. Awesome.
And I have people from every corners of the world have gotten my DVD.
Awesome.
I mean, all over places I didn't even know where the heck they were. Zanzibar.
Good.
You know,
good.
Places. I'm serious.
That's very encouraging, Bob. That's
well, it's encouraging. It's only that it's finally opened up some people's eyes to the possibilities. And I wanted the big deal. I wanted people to know how corrupt our government is. It's so bad.
Thank you.
What's terrible is that the new one I'm doing it's going to even show you more corruption. That's mind-boggling.
You know, honestly, Bob, I don't want to see any more corruption. But if you're going to bring it to the fore,
it's part. Well, unfortunately, it's part and parcel to everything.
It is. If you want to bring it out and show me, I am absolutely down for that, because that just adds more fire to the arsenal, and that's going to get us going even more. So if you can do that, appreciate it.
You're going to see some things that make your hair fall out, and
I don't want my hair to fall out. But
okay. Well then, maybe look. Watch it with just one eye, and you.
Bob, I'm only 34 here, man. I don't need my hair to fall out. So please.
No, you don't want to do that. Well, and what's terrible when you become an old geezer like myself. You can't do stuff. You can't do stuff, like you used to. That's just the way it is, because your batteries are running down, And but your head stays the same,
Your head does stay the same.
Yeah, your thoughts, processes, and all that stay the same.
Your thought process, and you know what? That's what's important to me. As long as you're still thinking, that's great.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about you, man, because you're still there, dude, and you're just. I love it, man. That's why I had you on again, because I was like, I got to get Bob back on, because I really want to hear what he has to say. I mean, we had
it's great.
We had Masters come on and talk about Planet X, and it was a little different than what you had to say, but I'm kind of swaying towards what you have to say, because you actually break it down. You give a whole background on how you came up on this and everything, and that's what I appreciate. And Marshall kind of didn't do that, and. So
yeah, I just like I say, originally I got when all of a sudden it dawned on me, I said that this probably is what it is, and originally it was hard to push myself to complete the thing, but then I say, oh, okay, how about this, and now I have this, and now we have the Pope, and now we got the telescope there, and now we got that, and we got that, and now they're not answering this, and this is happening with that, and everything just. It's like a big puzzle, and you don't understand what it is until you get 90% of it done. Then you can kind of make it out, and it all just kept going in the same direction. That these guys just wouldn't do all this crazy stuff if it wasn't scaring them very seriously. They would rather steal money and put it in their own pocket. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, listen, how are we on time? I guess we're about done. Should I say goodbye to everybody?
So we got to wrap up, but totally appreciate you coming on, staying on for extra time, and I would love to get you back on in this year.
Well, I'll tell you, as soon as I get this other one done, I'll get you guys copies, and then we'll go from there, because it's gonna raise as many eyebrows as the last one did.
Yeah, we got to have you on as soon as you put that out.
No, just let me know. Okay. Email me. Let me know. Keep in touch, and definitely we'll get you back on, because we definitely want you back on here. There's no doubt about that.
Alrighty. Good. Well, thank you. Had fun. You guys have a good evening for the rest of the day.
You too. And, thank you so much.
All right. Good. Take care.
Thanks, Bob. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
He's a good dude, man. I told you, dude. He can talk.
I know. I'm looking forward to
that. And that's what I like, dude. He I know you were thinking like we were getting into the whole Iran-Contra drug smuggling thing, but it all led up to all this.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing, and that's what I like about Bob, because he breaks it down. He loves to talk, which
it's
is fine with me.
It's important too, because really this Sonny Bono guy needs justice. You know, that I feel like I could sense his ghost on the other side, just like demanding it. You know,
and something that me and James talked about. It was like I would actually like to get more deeper into that whole other thing with the whole. Well, I guess we kind of did get kind of deep into that tonight.
Yeah.
So I guess we covered that, so we're good, right?
Yeah, I think
Bob could sit here and go for another 10
that
hours
was deep.
and talk.
I don't see how you can get any deeper. He got pretty detailed there.
He did. Yeah. He definitely did. And that's this is like literally a two-part. I can split this. I can split this up in two. I can. And then this whole Ninth Planet stuff came out. And I figured, well, that's perfect. I'm kind of glad that we did postpone it, because now we can have him come on and talk. And he's got a lot of stuff to talk about the whole thing. I mean, he gets right into it. That's what I liked about having him on, because he got into a lot of different stuff, the whole underground cities and stuff, which I thought was very interesting. I mean, it's stuff that we know about, obviously, but it's good to get his take. And of course, Bob Fletcher is a retired investigative journalist who conducted a probe into the CIA's involvement in the U.S. drug trade. His report was presented to several congressmen, including Sonny Bono, and since then turned his attention to the return of Planet X. So it's a pretty short, vague just bio.
Well, I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say about this news recently.
Yeah. I'm actually. I refrained from actually discussing it with him in the emails, because like I talk to a lot of people, like I talk to Dennis McKenna once in a while, about the decks and stuff like that, conversations through email and stuff like that, and I refrained from doing it with Bob, because I was like, well, no, I'll wait till he gets on the show. I don't want to.
So what's the deal? I mean, with this Planet X, I mean, the deal. A lot of people I can't say a lot of people. Not too many people talk about this, but. But the people who do talk about Planet X suspect that this could be some sort of conditioning. I think it could just be the government's way of putting a story out so they can just play stupid when it finally does pass us. So they can claim that they warned us.
Yeah.
Like...
hey, we warned you. Yeah.
Right.
We told you.
And it's not going to work. People are going to be pissed the fuck off when it passes. That's when the governments of the world are going to collapse, I believe. I mean, that's what Zeta Talks claims as well. They claim that... They claim that the government's going to try to pass martial law a few times, and they're going to fail, and people are going to rise up against the government when this thing finally does pass, because they're going to realize, holy shit, the government was lying. And
yeah.
So people are stupid, but they're not going to be that stupid,
No, well, I mean,
not that forgiving.
We hope not, anyway.
Yeah. Well, if the Nancy Leader is correct, and if she's actually channeling these Zeta Reticuli alien gray beings, then there's a good chance people won't forgive the government, which needs to happen. We need to fucking overthrow them.
Don't forgive them for anything anyway.
No. I mean, we're pretty naive and stupid, though. I mean, and you know what's crazy is you would think that most Nibiru people that believe in Planet X would also believe that the Earth is flat. It's not so bad, actually. It's not that large. It's kind of statistically equal to how many people are truthers. So maybe like 10% of the people believe the Earth's flat. That's not too bad.
10%, that's still big. That's 10% too much.
Hey, well, yeah, of course it is, dude. It's horrible. But that's like it seems to be the case with truthers. 10% of truthers, please. And if you're listening and you do believe the Earth is flat, I don't mean to offend. I'm not going to bash you. That's okay. You're free to believe that. I was interested first time I saw that. You know, like when I first ran into it, like to claim that there's a dome over the Earth is like encapsulated in this big glass dome.
I was more interested in the hollow Earth because I thought it was more reasonable, and it is.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I think that's
it's similar, but
yeah.
The thing that really got me, I know I don't want to give this too much attention, but was the whole faking the going into space and all that stuff. Like that's when people start like, okay, like even as crazy as it sounds, like I know anything's possible, but the whole we haven't gone into space and all this stuff, like that's crap. I mean, we haven't gone into space, of course.
I knew it. Right.
Well, I mean, I guess I've been in space before, you know, on some LSD or something. I definitely definitely saw a nice big round Earth when I was floating above the planet. So.
Yeah, you and me both. You know, the Earth is definitely round. There's no doubt about it. I mean, people are going to say, well, what proof? There's a lot of proof, but we're not going to talk about that this episode because we're talking about Nibiru. And Nibiru, man, what's the deal? When's it going to happen? That's what we're going to ask. We're going to ask. There's a lot of photos and video footage that appear to show Nibiru. Is it real, or are these photos just sun dogs? A lot of them are sold.
Right. And with this ninth planet, now they haven't actually seen that. This is basically they're basing this off just physics, right? They're like they haven't seen it. They're just like, you know, like I don't. I guess he could probably explain it a little bit. I didn't actually get into it. I didn't actually even. I did. I read that article and I shared it. I think I shared it on the website too, but I didn't get like too deep into it. So like whatever. I'm just gonna wait. I'll wait till we get Bob on, and I'll let Bob.
You know what's interesting about it is they found this research a while back, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's trending. I remember reading it a few months ago. The claim was that they can't see it. They haven't discovered it yet. They can
behind the sun.
It's behind the that's what the Nibiru people were saying, that it's next to the sun. But NASA is claiming that it's behind Pluto, and that we haven't seen it yet, but they're able to detect the magnetic force of it. And they're claiming that the magnetic force is so strong that this planet has to be 10 times larger than Earth. And that seems to be a lot of people claim that Nibiru is 4 times larger, but then Nemesis is the sun that travels with Nibiru.
Yep.
And I'm reading recently in these Nibiru groups that I often chat inside, and I'm reading that people are claiming that there are multiple suns traveling with us, and that there are multiple planets and moons. There's like almost a dozen objects, it seems, about
That's
a dozen
crazy.
objects.
That's
yeah,
crazy.
and like
I mean, not crazy. Not crazy as in flat Earth crazy. That's just like
right. No, it's crazy as in that'd be effing crazy if that thing by, because it would take up the whole sky, dude. It would look like a science fiction movie, you know.
Absolutely.
And the really cool thing when it does happen, and if it does happen in our lifetime, which I hope it doesn't happen in our lifetime, I don't want it to happen. You know, people it's happening. I do not want it to happen. That would be cataclysmic. Yeah. I mean, it's just this society sucks and everything, but I don't want us to like be destroyed. I don't want that would be. But dude, there's going to be some crazy plasma going on. Huge electrical plasma going from our planet to this Nibiru because the magnetic charges.
It doesn't. We don't have to touch it. It just has to get.
Oh no. Yeah.
I mean, not even really close, but I mean, you figure. I mean, like that gets in. Yeah, man. That's.
I saw a great documentary recently. Something called I forget what it's called. It's made by the people who made the documentary Thunderbolts of the Gods, and but inside of it, it's that cave drawings that you see of in all sorts of different cultures across the planet, like that were thousands of years old. These cave drawings. A lot of these weird, strange-looking beings that you see in these cave drawings.
Yep.
They're not. They weren't actually people that these people were drawing on their cave walls. They weren't aliens either. They were actually they were the electrical emissions. What I just mentioned it. The coming from Nibiru to our planet, kind of like it's like a string of energy, plasma.
Yeah.
Going back and forth to the planet. And this thing is going to look crazy. And they were actually able to duplicate this plasma discharge in laboratories, and they would record it on video. And the actual plasma that's going inside these laboratories that they film looks exactly like all the drawings on the wall. For instance, you know that the ancient drawing where you have the hand and the eyeball in the center of the hand?
Yep.
That's actually a plasma discharge that come from large object. Yeah.
And that's all right.
And actually, the hand itself is a mixture of plasma, and it's supposedly the planet Nibiru that in front of all these other planets.
Okay.
And this one documentary tries to claim that it's not Nibiru, that it's actually, what is it? Saturn, I believe. No, Jupiter. I'm sorry, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. So this documentary claims that Jupiter, Mars, and Venus, it was either Saturn or Jupiter, I think it was Jupiter, actually left their orbits at one time and were much closer and caused all sorts of destruction on the planet, which, as far as I'm concerned, is physically impossible. Something would have had to cause these planets to leave their orbit, and that, to me, is physically impossible.
Yeah, well, that's a good point.
The idea of there being an extra planet that has an elliptical orbit that travels around, and some people claim that it's not an elliptical orbit. It actually crosses over, so it's kind of like a big figure 8, and it goes both sides way outside the solar system. You know what I mean? Like it's like a figure 8, and we're in the center of that figure 8, Yep. Which means that it's not going to pass us twice, it's just going to pass us by once. So it's not going to have to enter the solar system, pass us, and then pass us again as it's leaving. It's actually just going to sneak up on us from the opposite side of the sun, and that's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And this Nemesis, the brown dwarf that travels with Nibiru, is supposedly keeps to the planet warm. And this planet, and I know we had a guest on before that was claiming it was like Lemurians and not Anunnaki, but I've never heard of that. I don't know what that guy was talking about.
Who was that?
I don't know. It was a few guests ago. It was some guy.
Oh, Dennis Watts.
Okay, yeah.
Right. That's I don't. Yeah, I kind of forgot that interview.
It was like Lemurians, the Anunnaki.
Anunnaki that was when we got
now
into all that. Yeah, all
that. The deal that they can't hurt people.
Yeah. So that was it kind of lost me on that when we got talking about that.
Saying some way.
I say that to James. James say that to James. Like, what? No, that's Dennis. No, don't say that. It's like, no, I didn't say anything bad about Dennis. I just that was the part that he talked about that I was just like, what?
I didn't like the guy very much. I thought he was full of it.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't remember much of that interview, to be honest. So, so I can't really say anything. That's basically what I remember from that interview. That wasn't a good night for me.
I thought he was a talk. I thought it was complete nonsense.
He was just on. I don't know if Clyde Lewis had him on Ground Zero. Well, that's what happened. James sent his contact or whatever to Clyde, and I guess Clyde had him on not too long ago. I don't know if it was Coast to Coast. I don't. Did you tag me in something about Coast to Coast the other day? Was that you?
I don't think so. Maybe I did something.
No, it's not something about. No. Somebody did. Someone tagged me. I don't know if they were just because they know I listen to it at night or. Look, I listen. Coast to Coast is nothing like it used to be, and I listen to it at night. Like I tell everyone, I listen to it to go to sleep. But it gives me because I hear things while I'm sleeping and dreaming. It's getting in my dreams. So when they talk about like the crazy stuff, it's like I start dreaming what they're talking about on this show. I love it. And that happened to me last night. I gotta share this before Bob comes on. It's kind of funny. I don't know if this had anything to do with what they had going on or whatever on the show. It might have just been completely irrelevant. I might have just had a weird-ass dream. But I watched that. There's a show on Fox. It's comedy. It's like that Cooper Barrett show. It's on Sunday nights, like with Family Guy and everything. And it's got this girl on it. And I had her name. I posted I posted about her earlier because I had that dream. And anyway, she was in my dream, and I was hanging out with her. And like I was at a bar, and like there were people there, and they were like famous people, but I don't know who they were. Like now, they like in my dream they were famous, but I don't think they really were. You know what I mean? And then I just skipped to another dream, and like I was somewhere in this town, and I stole this car, and I just remember driving around. It was like a really nice. It was like a sports car. Like I was like a must. It looked in my dream. It looked like something like a Mustang or something, stick shift, and I was like driving around, and then all of a sudden Joe Rogan's in my car, sitting in the passenger seat too. So I got Joe Rogan like riding passenger, dude. I'm just driving around. And, like, all these different people just keep showing up in my dream. And then, like, I murdered someone in my dream. I went to this camp. And so I went to this camp, and I apparently murdered people in my dream. Well, that's when I think they were talking about somebody killing someone on the radio, so it went into my head, and then apparently I was killing people in my dream last night. But anyway, I had to share that because I have some weird dreams, man.
Yeah, me too, but not that often that I kill anybody. I don't think I really ever kill anybody in my dream.
I think that might have been the first time I killed someone in my dream.
Actually, no. There was this one kid that tried to kill me in my dream, and I killed him. He tried pushing me over a balcony, and I moved, and he fell off.
You ever have those dreams where you're trying to punch someone and you're really slow? It's like you're like it's slow motion. It's like, I don't know, I've had that. Like in a dream you're trying to fight someone but you can't do it. Like you're not moving and you're moving in slow motion. I don't know. I've had that happen so many times. I guess I have violent dreams, don't I?
Yeah.
Like killing people, beating people up.
Watching UFC crap.
I don't know, maybe. There was a while there that I would wake up in the morning and that's what I would think about, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, dude. Like it was really weird. Like I would just wake up and that was the first thing that came to my mind. Like it's just weird. I don't know, man. I have these really weird dreams and the stuff goes in my head, so it sticks in my head. I don't know what to think of myself sometimes.
You gotta cleanse your aura, man.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh man.
So yeah, man, Nibiru. I'm looking forward to this. I mean, the Anunnaki, are they going to come by? A lot of people were claiming it was going to happen in March. I suspect it could happen in like 7 or 8 years. Aren't they claiming that whole RFID chip's going to come out in 2017? And if that's
wow, we're already in 26. Jeez, man.
Yeah, 2017.
Wow.
And, exactly. Oh, I know. And it's gone by fast, right? And if that's the case, isn't inside the Bible, like, because the whole prophecy thing, and this is like self-fulfilling prophecy. So the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, the control freaks, they influenced the Bible, they influenced all the prophecies, and they basically wrote the prophecies in the Bible themselves just so when the time comes they could recreate it. They claim that Jesus will come and F up the world and bring destruction, and he will come in the sky. I believe Jesus is just just Nibiru, and they just don't want to say Nibiru because they don't want people to be prepared. So they're gonna.
I mean, that's
my theory. Is the mention of Jesus coming in the sky and all that. That's just Nibiru, and so that's supposed to happen after the 7 years of tribulation. So if this whole RFID thing is starting next year, this could be the first year of the 7-year tribulation. That means Nibiru could come in about 8 years. But then I heard someone else claim that it will either come now or in 40 years, and I never really understood that, and I didn't really think to ask him what the hell he was talking about at the time. But I'm going to ask him next time.
It seems like especially where it is right now, there's no way that it would get here that quick. I mean,
yeah, maybe in 7 or 8 years, but not in.
I would say like at least after 5 years from now.
yeah. If it's on the outside of Pluto, yeah, it's not going to be anytime soon. But if it's outside of Pluto, there's no way it's going to be.
Oh, no, that's if that's outside Pluto, obviously that's going to take a long time.
it is going to be here next month.
If that's Planet X, that's going to mess up a lot of theories.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, I mean,
probably even going to mess up Bob's theory.
So, when's it going to happen? I mean, this is crazy. I want to know. And, I mean, and people don't realize that it doesn't have to hit us. It just has to come close, and it would completely take over our gravitational pull. It would slow down the planet to a complete stop. You'd have between 3 and 7 days of darkness, depending on what side of the planet you're on, and 3 to 7 days of sunlight if you're on the other side. So, I mean, and then the oceans are just going to roll in, all the coastlines. You're going to have like 200-foot wall of water. It's claimed, I think it was on Zeta Talk, they claimed that the oceans it's going to be like a high tide, like an ocean's tide. It's not going to be a tsunami, but it's going to be like a big wall of water that slowly comes in as the planet's slowing down to a stop. And it's going to be like 200-foot wall of water, and people are going to be trying to go inland to escape this wall of water. And entire coastlines. Within 100 miles inland, you have to be in at least a few hundred feet above sea level. And then after this thing passes, we're going to have a new North and South Pole. So all the ice in the Antarctica is going to melt. I think the new South Pole is going to be in India. So if you're in India, you're dead. You got to get the hell out of India when this happens. You're going to freeze to death. And all that water is going to melt. And then for a few years, the sea level is going to be 700 feet above sea level, where we're at now. So you're going to have to be at least 700 feet above sea level. And as this Nibiru passes by us, once it actually passes us, you're going to have a crazy worldwide earthquake on the, what do they say?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, that's definitely, absolutely.
9.0 on the Richter scale, no matter where you're at on the planet, and some places as high as 18.0, which means if you're at a place...
Probably like California.
Right. Well,
like the San Andreas or something like that.
I don't even think, I don't think you can really know, because it's not just going to be on the regular fault line.
No,
It probably will, some places. Like
I would imagine, but
if you're at a spot on the planet where there's like an 18.0 on the Richter scale, you don't have a chance in hell of living. You're just going to be thrown up in the air a couple hundred feet. You're going to be like shot up into the air. That's how crazy that is, you know? Yeah.
That is.
You don't have a shot in hell there.
It sounds like fun.
Yeah. And there's this huge red iron dust cloud that's traveling with Nibiru. And it's going to cover the whole planet in this fine red dust. It's iron. It's going to be toxic. And supposedly, at least Zetatalk claims that's where we get our oil from, this dust cloud from Nibiru. And they claim that all the oceans and lakes and rivers will be red like blood. That's in the Bible.
That is. Hey, whoever called in, you're on mute, so I got to dial up the guest. It'll probably dial live on air.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not... It usually does. Maybe they fix that so it doesn't give us the dial tone when we call. I'm not sure. But yes, I believe we are live with Bob Fletcher right now. You with us, Bob?
No.
All right. Well, anyway, I got him dialed. He picked up. I don't know if something's going on his end, and we, let me try this.
All right.
Huh.
What is the deal?
I don't know. I've never had this issue. It dialed out, so he's connected right now. He can probably hear us talking, but we can't hear him.
Mr. Bob Fletcher, I believe your microphone might... Is he using Skype? Yeah, you would have to use
No, it's a home phone, actually, so it really shouldn't be that. I know.
Yeah, it shouldn't be any problems whatsoever, sure.
There not be any problems. All right, let's get this other connection
I want
going.
to hear Mr. Fletcher.
That's interesting.
I've got to get his take on this recent news.
I'm trying here. That's what kind of sucks about having to run the show and host the show and try to do all this at once, dude.
I think that's him. Oh, that's
okay,
Michael.
No, we got
Michael, not Bob.
What a disappointment.
Michael is
my best friend too.
Michael's the restricted call that I answered.
I would rather have you been Bob Fletcher, though.
Yeah. Well, we still have Bob connected. We just can't hear him.
Are you able to message him on Facebook or something?
I sent him an email and let him know that I was connecting to him.
You need to do better than email.
That's the only contact I have.
You want to hang up and try calling him again?
Yeah, I think I'll try that. It's weird.
Okay. How you doing, Michael? How was work?
Another day, man.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
All right. Yeah, I know I got the number right because I copied and pasted it. So he's probably he's trying to talk to us and.
Oh, I hope not.
All right. So landline. Yeah, I got it. Same. Yeah, I got the number right. Sorry, folks. We'll get this figured out. This actually has not ever happened, especially with a landline. I can understand with Skype, but a landline, man, that should just try this.
And so, Michael, what are your thoughts on Planet X? Oh, here we go.
See now it's giving us now.
Yeah, that's
I didn't
fine.
do that before. That's weird.
Hello.
Hello, Bob.
Contact with foreign